Hey, if you're new to my channel, then consider liking and subscribing. It would really mean a lot to me, and honestly, it'd make my day. If you already did, thank you so much. Oh, and by the way, if you like listening to fan fiction, check out my other channel. The link's in the description.
A Crew for a King by Fallen Angel Codester. To become king of the pirates, you need a crew, and in order to reach his dream, Luffy will need all the help he can get. Extended crew story, slightly more serious Luffy. Adios.
Following Shoju around the edge of Jaya was thankfully uneventful, at least off the going merry. On it, an argument was taking place. "Why are you being so defensive?" Marianne asked Usopp, arms crossed. "Mary has served us well, but if she falls apart we're screwed." "You know why," Usopp replied. "A friend gave it to us, we aren't ditching her." "Would your friend prefer you drown because the ship she gave you fell apart?" Marianne demanded. Usopp blanched at this, not having any words. Luffy stepped in at this, sensing a fight coming. "Don't worry Usopp," he said, "Mary is one of us. We aren't going to ditch her just yet." "Thank you Luffy," Usopp said, "at least my captain agrees." "Yet, Usopp," Nijiko said, "Mary is too small for all of us." "Yeah," Vivi added, "I mean, the girls' room is made for 1, not 5. We add any more, we'll have no room to sleep." "Just sleep below deck with us," Johnny said. "Yeah, no," Nami replied. "I can already hear you guys snoring through the floor. Not happening." "Can't we just build an addition?" Usopp asked. "How do you expect to do that when you can't handle basic repairs?" Zoro asked him. Usopp again seemed to have no answer, but his eyes seemed to catch something ahead of them. "Hey, look at that!" he shouted. Luffy turned to look, and his eyes widened in surprise. "A castle?" he demanded. Ahead of them, on the shoreline, was a massive castle that spread upwards into the sky. Shoju was docked nearby, so it was clearly their destination. "This guy must be loaded," Yosaku shouted. "Big sis Robin, what did you hear about him?" "Nothing extravagant like this," Robin answered. "He's mostly talked down on, although he apparently thinks Jaya has a massive gold stash on it somewhere." Luffy could almost hear Nami's brain clinking with thoughts of coins. "Gold?" she asked in a sing-song tone. "How much, exactly?" "Never enough to satisfy you," he said with a snort. Nami glared at him, looking annoyed. "I wouldn't need to worry about money so much if you'd stop eating a mountain of food at every meal," she said. "That's just not true," Luffy replied. "I only eat 3/4 of a mountain now. I'm on a diet." "Really?" Nami asked, grabbing a hold of his cheek. "You're still fat." With this she released his cheek, making it snap back into place and making him stumble backwards. Before he could retaliate, Marianne scoffed. "Place isn't extravagant at all," she said. "Look a little closer." Luffy looked back at the castle, squinting at it as they got close. He couldn't see what she meant, though. It just looked like a normal castle. Once they got to the shore, though, they realized what he meant. "It's a painting on plywood," Johnny exclaimed in surprise as they stared at the tiny hut behind the painting. Comparing the painting to the hut behind it was giving Luffy whiplash. "I saw paintbrush marks when we got closer," Marianne explained from between Johnny and Yosaku. "Paint is cracking thanks to water, too. Needs to be waterproofed." "Where's your friend?" Luffy asked Shoju, who was lounging in a chair nearby. "Seems he went diving," the monkey replied lazily. "He'll be back soon, relax and wait." "Getting my ass kicked made me hungry," Luffy said flatly, walking for the hut's door. "Can we eat?" "Didn't you just say you were dieting?" Nami asked. "It's a cheat day." "What, this and every day?" Ignoring his navigator, Luffy opened the door to the hut and peered inside. It was painfully empty, making his stomach groan in irritation. He'd have to go get something later. Closing the door, he walked back a few paces and threw himself down on the ground, yawning. "Let me know if anything happens," he said. He put his straw hat over his eyes, but stayed awake and listened to the others talk. "So, my newfound friends," Shoju said. "What are you looking to ask Cricket?" "We were looking into the rumors of Sky Islands," Vivi replied. "Apparently Mr. Cricket is well known for chasing dreams." Luffy smiled as she talked. She really was good at this. "Sky Island, huh?" Shoju asked, voice deepening. "Are you here to make fun of him, then?" "No, of course not," Vivi said. "We're trying to get to Sky Island." Shoju was quiet for a moment before letting out a laugh. "We'll see what Cricket thinks," he said, "but I see why you came looking for him now. Everywhere else on Jaya you'd get laughed out of for thinking the place was real." "You don't say," Nijiko muttered. Luffy could tell she was still irritated by what had happened back at the bar, but he didn't say anything. The fat ass they'd run into outside the bar was right. They hadn't needed to throw any punches. "What's this book?" he heard Johnny asked. "The King of Liars, Noland." "Huh?" Sanji asked. "I know that book. It's a fairy tale from the North Blue." "Why do you know that?" Nijiko asked him. "Haven't I mentioned it? I was born in the North Blue," he replied, "raised in the East Blue though." "Let me see it," Nami said. Luffy heard her open it before continuing. In a country somewhere in the North Blue, there was a man named Mont Blanc Noland. He was an adventurer who told stories of adventures he'd had. However, the townsfolk never knew whether or not his tales were true. "Sounds like Usopp," Zoro noted. "Hey," Usopp shouted. One day, Noland came back to the kingdom and told the king, "There is an island out there that has a mountain of gold on it," Nami continued. So, the king brought 2,000 soldiers with him as Noland led them to the island. They had to face vicious waters and sea monsters, but they soon reached the island Noland spoke of with only 100 soldiers. However, when they got there, all they saw was a jungle. "They lost 1,900 soldiers?" Marianne asked. "Yikes." "Noland took the blame for the catastrophe and was sentenced to death," Nami said, turning the page. "Before he died, he said, 'I know, the island fell into the sea.' But by now, no one believed a word he said. Noland continued to lie until he died, but no one listened to a word of it. The pathetic liar died with no one listening to his words." Nami went quiet as she finished the story, closing the book. "What the hell was the point of that story?" Nijiko asked. "That you shouldn't tell lies," Sanji replied. "It's a good book for kids, and Usopp." "Do you guys have a problem with me?" Usopp demanded. "We love you just the way you are, Usopp," Vivi reassured him. "Why do you sound so listless?" the liar demanded. "Noland sounds like Roger," Luffy finally said. "Does he?" Yosaku asked. "How?" "Both men died talking about their dreams," Luffy said as he sat up. "Only people believed Roger." "The island mentioned in the book must be Jaya," Robin reasoned. "Cricket is looking for Noland's gold." "They're both called Mont Blanc," Sanji said. "Family connection?" "You could say that," Shoju affirmed. Before anyone could say any more, the sound of someone surfacing from the water rang nearby. Luffy sat up and turned to look, watching as a muscular man with an odd bulb on his head climbed out of the water, watching them warily. "Who are you people?" he demanded. "Shoju, these friends of yours?" "In a sense," Shoju replied, "they wanted to speak to you." "To me, huh?" Luffy supposed the man in question was Mont Blanc Cricket. "What do they want with me?" "We wanted to ask about Sky Islands," Vivi said. "Do you know anything about?" Vivi didn't get to finish her sentence before Cricket hit the ground, coughing up blood. After dragging Cricket inside, Chopper started giving orders. He ordered all the windows open and fresh, cold towels be applied to Cricket's forehead, and he watched the man closely as he breathed raggedly. "What's the diagnosis, Doc?" Luffy asked him from a chair nearby. "Decompression sickness, most likely," Chopper replied. "It's what happens when you free dive too deep into the ocean with no protective gear. The water pressure buildup, and then release as you surface, is too much stress on the body. He should be okay once we stabilize as likely," Shoju said, having joined them inside. He was lazing on the floor nearby, looking disinterested. "He dives daily." "Daily?" Chopper exclaimed. "How is he not dead?" "Decompression sickness is no joke." Luffy watched as Chopper reapplied a fresh towel, frowning. He wanted to talk to his guy about Sky Islands, and now he was out cold. "I'm gonna take a walk," he said. "Warn me if he wakes up." "Don't stray far," Nami told him. "I won't," he replied. Opening the door, Luffy walked outside and back into the open air. Just in time to get a punch to the face. "Let the boss go," a familiar voice shouted. "Boss, Shoju. Are you okay? I spotted an unfamiliar ship and a ruffian here." "Ruffian?" Luffy demanded, already annoyed he'd been hit. Jumping to his feet, he prepared to punch back when he realized it was the other ape guy from before. What had been his name? Mastodon? "Easy Masira," Shoju's voice echoed from inside. They're friendlies. No need to start fights. Oh, Masira said, my bad then. Sorry friend. I mistook you for a hey. You're that pirate from earlier. What a coincidence. An annoying one, Luffy grumbled, wiping dirt from his face. The punch hadn't hurt, of course, but he was still miffed. He was about ready to punch the monkey back, but he caught Nami giving him a death glare from the doorway. Smiling as innocently as he could, he lowered his arm and acted as though he hadn't been about to deck Masira in the face. Nami pointed 2 fingers at her eyes, then aimed them at him threateningly. He understood perfectly. She was watching him. Masira hadn't hurt him, but Nami definitely would. What are you doing here, big guy? Luffy asked him instead. Ah, this is the base of operations for our pirate group, the Primate Pirates. Fitting name. What was that? Nothing, Luffy said swiftly. Not important, you guys know Cricket long time, Masira agreed cheerily. We've been working with him for years. We usually live on our ships though, as the house is too small for all 3 of us. Luffy figured the house was too small from anyone, but he didn't mention that. Before he could say anything more, Nami poked her head back out the door. He's waking up, Luffy, she told him, thankful to be free of the ape. Luffy walked back towards the house, was greeted by the sight of Cricket sitting up, groaning as he did so. Nice to see you back up so fast, Onionhead, Luffy said. Hard to stay out when you morons won't stop screaming, Cricket replied irritably. Still, I am grateful for your doctor. I already feel much better. No diving for a few days, Chopper warned, else he'll make it worse. Yeah, right, Cricket replied. Luffy got the sense that the man wasn't taking Chopper very seriously. Anyone got a smoke? Here ya go, Sanji said, offering him one. Taking the cigarette, Cricket also took a light from Sanji's lighter, thanking him as he did so. What did you guys want again? He asked. Shoju said you wanted my help or something. Luffy looked to Vivi, who was already stepping forward. We came to ask you about Sky Islands, Mr. Cricket, she said as cordially as she could. We've heard you're a man familiar with fairy tales. Cricket watched her quietly for a moment, puffing on his cigarette. Then he burst out laughing, rocking the tiny house with the noise. Sky Islands, he roared. Miss, what castle did you grow up in? That's a tall tale, Sky Islands. Huh? Luffy felt annoyed that the onion-headed geezer was laughing at them, so he took a step closer. Are you trying to say they don't exist? He asked. Cricket stopped laughing, taking a long drag from his cigarette. Who knows? He asked. I sure don't. I know of a man who said they did. A great liar he was. All eyes in the room turned to Usopp. What? Usopp demanded. I've never met this guy before. Stop looking at me. Well, you are known for lying big bro, Yosaku told him. And not much else, Marianne replied from between him and Johnny. No, not your friend, Cricket interrupted. The great liar, Noland. From the storybook, Nijiko said. Cricket agreed. He and I are distantly related. Granted, he and I are generations apart. The gold you're looking for is his from the fable, then? Robin asked. Cricket grunted as he shifted. Yes, it is. So you're here to prove him innocent? Usopp cried. That's awesome, old man. Johnny and Yosaku immediately sniffled. Mr. Cricket, that's so cool of you, Johnny said. Quit talking out your ass, Cricket shouted, making the trio jump. I don't care about Nolan's reputation. He's dead and gone. I care about my own life. Nolan's lie ruined my family's life, all the way down to me. My entire childhood I was ridiculed for being a Mont Blanc. I'm here to see if my life was ruined on a lie or not. If my suffering was caused by him, or by the people who refused to believe him. And the monkeys? Zoro asked. Fans of the story, Cricket replied with a hand wave. Shoju Amd Masira nodded. It's such an epic tale. Masira cried out. We wanted to find the gold Nolan spoke of. That's why we're divers. Yes. Shoju agreed, we'll find that gold for sure. Enough about monkeys, Luffy interjected, feeling they were too far off topic. What did he say about Sky Islands, old man? Cricket scoffed at him. Impatient, eh? He asked, reaching over to his bookshelf nearby. He pulled out a ragged leather journal, flipping it open. You won't find anything in that kid's book about Sky Islands, or even anything in this captain's log. Just a single paragraph says anything about it. Having found the page, Cricket handed the book to Nami. "Have a read, miss. See what it says." Nami took the book from him and flipped it over, her eyes scanning it. "This afternoon, I met a merchant and purchased a peculiar object," she read aloud. "He claimed it was called a waver, and that it was from the Sky Islands. It was an incredible ship that moved with no wind, and seemed to travel faster than even the best ships I have seen. Wow, I want one of those." "Keep reading," Cricket replied. "The waver's source of energy only exists on the Sky Islands, as with many other unique objects. Speaking of, an adventurer he encountered showed me a fish from the sky. It was a very strange creature, with wings like a bird instead of fins. Apparently there are many unique creatures and items in the Sea of the Skies. I wish I could go there, but apparently it is very difficult and sometimes impossible. A ship our size wouldn't make it. Oh well. Perhaps one day, travel to the sky will be easier, so they do exist." "Don't get so excited," Cricket told her. "He could still be a liar, after all. Who knows if it really exists?" "It's doubtful he's lying," Robin said, a hand on her chin. "His writing style suggests he is regaling a factual experience, not making something up. No one writes a personal log in lies. That's just silly. I suppose it's possible that the men we spoke with are liars and charlatans, but I don't think Noland himself was lying." "I remember reading stuff like that," Vivi said. "Back in the old days, frauds used to use monkey and fish skeletons to pretend they'd found a fishman corpse, trying to sell to the highest bidder." "Yeah, and it was harder to tell if they were liars back then too," Nijiko agreed. Yosaku and Johnny practically had steam coming out of their ears. "So are we going to the sky or not?" Yosaku asked. "I'm lost." "Yeah, me too," Johnny agreed. "It's possible, all right," Cricket said. "We can help you, too. Just one question for you lot." "What?" Luffy asked. "You ready to die over this?" "No," Usopp answered immediately. "Why do you ask?" Luffy asked. Cricket took another drag from his cigarette, exhaling loudly. "Because you'll be risking life and limb to get there is all," he replied. "Have to make sure." "Of course we're sure," Luffy replied. "I can't be king of the pirates if I've never been to a sky island." "You definitely can," Usopp argued. Cricket just laughed. "King of the pirates, huh? Well now who sails?" He stood from his seat and cracked his back. "If you want to get to Sky Island that bad, we'll help ya. Just don't come crying to use if you get killed. Listen up," Cricket said as he walked out of his house. "I'll tell y'all everything I know about the Sky Islands. Believe or don't, this is what we know." "I believe you," Luffy answered. He'd already spent a good portion of his life believing in one legend. What was another going to cost him? Cricket just regarded him bemusedly before continued. "Sometimes in these seas," he said, "the sky will grow dark as night out of nowhere. Some people have even seen figures in them. This darkness is caused by an extremely dense cloud formation in the sky." "Nimbostratus?" Nami asked. "They can't make the sky dark, but not like nighttime." "I'd be likely to agree if it was that type of cloud, little miss," Cricket replied as he took a drag from his cigarette. "But it isn't. These types of clouds are called Millennium Alonimbus. These clouds don't ascend, descend or create rain. They stay stagnant, like cloud fossils that could be millions of years old." "No rain?" Nami asked, brow furrowed. Luffy thought she looked goofy when she thought this hard. But at the density required to blot out the sun, surely they would. Our current understanding of clouds says that's the case," Cricket agreed. "But this wouldn't be the first time we humans discovered something that shattered our previous understanding. If sky islands do exist, the only reasonable location would be on these clouds. I'm assuming how to get there is the life and death part," Nijiko offered. Cricket nodded along to this. "Naturally," he said. "That involves the knock-up stream." "Knock-up stream?" Nami asked. "Is that the same thing as the blast-off stream?" "Different name for the same anomaly," Cricket said. "Pressurized water gets shot high into the sky frequently around here. That's your ticket skyward, right there." "Is such a thing even possible?" Vivi asked incredulously. "The poor Mary would get torn to shreds." "Yeah, I'd like to avoid that," Usopp claimed. "Most ships would, yes," Cricket said. "Including yours, from the look of it. But the key is the timing. You need to ride that current all the way to the Sky Island." "Time out," Nami exclaimed. How is such a thing even possible? Is it a gigantic geyser? Some sort of water volcano? If I knew that I'd have mentioned it, Cricket replied, looking annoyed. The best theory is that cold water gets trapped inside underwater caves, gets heated by the planet's core, and erupts upwards once it boils too much. You have to ride the stream upwards at the same time the clouds are above. Such a thing is not a frequent occurrence, but you're in luck. Sky Island is nearby. How do you know that? Luffy asked curiously. Because the sky went dark today, he replied. When the skies turns to night during the day, it means the Millennium Alonimbus is approaching. Give that, we still need to time the eruption with the cloud's arrival. The knock-up stream only happens 5 times a month. We'll need to be lucky to catch it, and you'll be even luckier to not smash back into the water at any point during this event. The crew could practically hear Usopp shaking. Maybe we shouldn't do this, he said. After all, Luffy, there's no guarantee that Sky Island exists. Luffy knew the resident scaredy cat was right. Even with all these coincidental facts, including the ship that had nearly dropped on top of them earlier that very day, it was still a shot in the dark. Not to mention we can't stay longer than a day, or the log pose will reset, Nami added. That was a problem too. Oi, old man, he said, how soon will the stream be active again? Cricket crossed his arms. Calendar date lines up with tomorrow, he said. The clouds are approaching as well. The timing is perfect, if you want to go, that is. So they only had the one shot. If there was no Sky Island, they were dead. If there was, they could only have this one shot to get to it. Anyone not ready to die tomorrow? He asked. Yes, Usopp and Nami answered together. No one else did. Luffy grinned and let out a chuckle. Let's get ready to go, Cricket, he said. We don't have long to prepare. A smile broke out across Cricket's face as well. Damn right, he said. We'll need to do some remodeling on your ship, but before that we should eat. Come, there's liquor in the house. Now you have my attention, Zoro noted. It didn't take long for a party to take over the entire shack. Drinks were poured out, and soon enough those who did drink were giddy and loosened up. Listen to this one, Cricket shouted, Nolan's journal in hand. When we arrived on the island, we heard the strange chirping of birds and the ringing of bells. They were beautiful bells, made of solid gold. They rang as if to sing of the civilization's glory across the seas for all to hear. These bells' sounds were so deep and intense, it made the men anxious whenever we heard bells from there on. Solid gold bells? Nami asked, as if she'd completely ignored the rest of the story. And they're massive, hum? Don't lose your head, sneak thief, Zoro told her as he elbowed her. Plenty of gold down here, anyway, Cricket announced, whipping out a sack from nowhere. Reaching in, he pulled out all manner of small gold trinkets and showed them around. There were little bells, seemingly to mimic the larger ones, coins, bricks. As he did so, Masira pulled out a large gold bird statue. This just made Luffy more excited. So how do we start to remodel the ship? He asked Cricket. The man took a long swig of beer before he opened his mouth to speak. First things first, you need to find a south bird, he said. That's the most important thing. What's a south bird? Usopp asked. Thing right here, Cricket said as he gestured to the bird figure. Looks just like it, just less gold. Chirps just like this. See? He pressed down the bird's head, and the statue let out a strange chirp the likes of which Luffy had never had before. Go to the southern forest and find one. Why do we need one? Johnny asked. Easy, my dear simpleton, Cricket replied. Johnny didn't even seem to notice the insult that made Marianne snicker from beside him. Losing your way on the Grand Line is easy, as I'm sure you know. That's why sailors use the log pose. You lot try to sail out of here not looking for an island, you'll get lost altogether. Where does the bird come in? Sanji asked. I believe I know, Robin said. Many animals in nature have a sort of built-in bio-compass. If I could hazard a guess, it's that this bird can point us to the knock-up stream. Exactly, Cricket said. The bird points straight to the stream in the south. Without it, you may as well forget about the Sky Islands. How the hell did Marianne get herself into these situations? In one moment she was sitting in Cricket's house enjoying a drink, in the next she'd been ejected into the forest with Johnny and Yosaku with a net in an attempt to catch a south bird. Now the three of them were trudging through the forest as the sky began to blacken. If it gets too dark, we'll never find it. Yosaku noted, shielding his eyes with his hand as he observed the top of the trees. How the hell did we end up on a team? Marianne asked in confusion. We are a team, Johnny replied. Big bro Luffy said we had to look after you. What? Marianne asked. That was before we landed in Alabasta. You don't need to shadow me anymore. Well, someone has to look after you, Yosaku said. You're just a little girl. Do you morons just ignore me when I say I'm 16? She demanded angrily. I'm just short. Johnny let out a laugh and ruffed her hair. It's just easy to forget, since you're only a chopper and a half tall, he said. Do not refer to my height as a chopper and a half. I'll have you know I've gained height since we met. Really? Yosaku asked as he stared at her. I don't see it. Trying to ignore the stabbing pain of shortness in her stomach, Marianne craned her neck upwards to scan the treetops. She knew the bird had to be shaped like the idol cricket had showed them, but other than that, they was it big or small, colorful or not at all. Thankfully she had a good eye for color. Otherwise it might have been even more annoying. Which is what alerted her to something being wrong. Above them, in the canopy of the trees, something was gathering. No, a whole lot of somethings. Bugs. Marianne watched in horror as a swarm of locusts descended on them, ready to swallow her whole. Run! She screeched, turning and bolting as fast as her legs could carry her. Both swordsmen soon followed after her, quickly overtaking her. Why are we being chased by grasshoppers? Johnny demanded. Did we mess up their nest or something? Yosaku asked. Who cares? She demanded. Just run. Marianne could say this all she wanted, but the truth was she was falling behind. Johnny and Yosaku got further away with every stride of their longer legs, and the buzzing of the locusts got louder. One flew right past her ear, and she screeched. Carry me, she shouted desperately. I can't run fast enough. Didn't you just say you weren't a little girl? Johnny asked. I'm short, okay. I'm short, they're gonna catch me. Damn it all. Yosaku shouted. Slowing down, the swordsman veered and grabbed her around the waist, throwing her over his shoulder. He did it with so much ease Marianne forgot to be offended at her own lack of weight. Despite being able to flee the locusts, she now had a full view of them from Yosaku's back. They looked mad. Run faster, you oaf, she cried, they'll catch us. I'm going as fast as I can. Unpaid transient. Yosaku snapped back. She'd ask where he learned the big words later. Deciding she did not want to become Locust Chow, Marianne dug into her pack and looked around for what she needed. Pulling out a vial of betrayal black, she uncorked it and reared back. Once a few locusts got close enough, she splashed the paint directly into the swarm. The effect was imminent. The size of the locusts meant that getting splashed even a little switched their loyalty. In an instant about a quarter of the swarm turned on the others, attacking their brethren. It wasn't enough to stop them from getting chased, but it did slow them down. Go go go, she shouted. Johnny and Yosaku sped up at her will, putting distance between them and the bugs. What the hell was that? Johnny asked. Why were they chasing us? Who cares? Marianne asked, bouncing on Yosaku's shoulders. Let's get the hell out of here. But we need that bird, Yosaku replied. Screw the bird, I don't want to die to bugs. What the hell is wrong with this forest? Nami demanded angrily. She ducked as the giant praying mantis she was fleeing from swiped at her, before Luffy punched it in the back of the head. I don't know, but these bugs are sick, he shouted gleefully. Nami, look, it bleeds green. I don't want to look, that's disgusting. This bird better show up soon, Nijiko said in disgust as she fired a bullet in between the eyes of a huge centipede. I'm losing my patience. Cho. Nami's ears perked up when she heard a bird call. Her eyes darted to the tops of the nearby trees, but with the sun setting it was hard to see anything. I think I heard the bird, she called to Luffy. Do you see it? Luffy cartoonishly stretched his neck to crane it upwards, humming to himself as he kicked a moth in the head. No, he answered, nothing. I don't see it either, Nijiko offered. Nami frowned as she did a spin, still unable to see anything. This is ridiculous, she hissed. What is even happening in this forest? Vivi was exhausted. It wasn't because she was running or fighting. It was because was mediating between Zoro and Sanji. Somehow, as the crew split up, she'd been stuck with them, Chopper and Usopp. Usopp had insisted going with the stronger members of the crew, which she thought had something to do with it. Guys, can we please focus on finding this bird? she asked, interrupting another argument about Lord Knew-What. Sanji, can you please keep your eyes open? For me? Vivi knew she was being manipulative, but she wanted out of this as fast as possible. I'd do anything for you. Vivi Swan, Sanji shouted happily as if the prior argument had never happened. Zoro still looked annoyed. As long as he didn't walk off randomly, they'd be fine. Good thing you're here, Vivi, Chopper noted from her arms. She'd long since picked him up and started to hold him like a stuffed animal, which he didn't seem to mind. It's hard getting those two to stop arguing. I was brought along to do the talking, she reminded him, so it's nice to fulfill my purpose. Granted, it isn't hard to make Sanji do something, Usopp said with a cheeky grin. All you really need is to be a woman. That was also true. Sanji wasn't exactly hard to please. He is rather persistent, isn't he? Chopper asked. Maybe I should run some tests on him, see if he's okay. He isn't, Usopp replied, he's sick in the mind. He is? Chopper asked. Vivi sighed as Usopp chuckled. Indeed, Usopp said. Sanji suffers from, will do anything if he might get laid, itis. It's incurable, sadly. Oh, poor guy, Chopper muttered. Usopp, please don't fill our doctor's head with nonsense, Vivi said. Else he'll try and cure us with potions and magic SP. Vivi was cut off by a cracking sound, making them all pause. Zoro's hand flew to his swords, and Usopp hid behind her. How manly. No one got to ask what had just happened, as soon a rumbling sound passed through the air. And it got louder, and louder. Turning in the direction of the sound, Vivi's eyes widened as she saw a massive boulder flying towards them, showing no signs of stopping. Usopp let out a scream that could compete with a bird screeching as it barreled towards them. It didn't get close, though, as Zoro and Sanji flew into action. Zoro drew a single blade and prepared himself, waiting until the boulder got a little closer. Once it passed a certain tree, he burst forwards and brought his sword down on the boulder, splitting it vertically. As it split, Sanji jumped up in between the pieces and raised his legs, kicking them off to the side. In a split second, both of them turned the boulder into a complete non-threat, the pieces coming to rest in some underbrush. I didn't need your help, Zoro noted. I didn't ask for yours, either, Sanji said. Yet you both worked in perfect sync, Vivi thought to herself. You both saved us, she said to calm the storm. What the hell was that? Why did that come flying at us? It wasn't a boulder, Zoro noted. It was a bug. Vivi raised an eyebrow, turning to look at the remains. Sure enough, the bisected bug was oozing. Why did it roll at us? Usopp wondered aloud. Was it just a coincidence? Someone did it on purpose, Zoro said as he regarded the split boulder. We're being hunted. Don't say stuff like that, Usopp cried. You're freaking me out. Cho 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 cho. A bird's cry punctuated the darkness around them, making them all look up. He's over there, Chopper said, pointing his hoof upward. Following this, Vivi saw the bird in question. It had a deep purple color to its feathers, while its stomach was green. Its bill was long and shaped oddly, with a bull color on the end. The important part, though, was that he looked exactly like the state they'd seen. Now we just need to grab him, Vivi said. Cho, the south bird chirped. Chopper blanched. That wasn't necessary, he shouted, we just need your help. Cho, well, we haven't done anything like that. Don't antagonize people for no reason. Cho cho cho, wah? That was uncalled for? What is he saying? Vivi asked. Chopper looked annoyed with the bird, pouting in her arms. I won't repeat most of it. It was half cursing, but from what else he said, he's the one who threw the rock at us. He's also been messing with the others. He finds it funny that we're running around aimlessly. Can you tell him we just need his help for a bit? She asked. We won't hurt him. Yet, Zoro muttered. Cho, Vivi was about to ask what he said, but it soon bent order. The bushes around them exploded, revealing hordes of massive bugs. Forced to drop Chopper, Vivi whipped out her peacock spinners and sliced open a beetle that tried to grab her. Why are the bugs listening to it? She demanded as she readied herself to fight. Bird is asking to become wings, Sanji muttered, punting the ant back into the woods. We need to keep up with him, Chopper said. He's been commanding the bugs to attack the others, too. So we need to stop him. Before the group could even more, the line of trees were sliced down in front of them. A dozen or more flying mantis flew straight at them, their cleaver-like arms raised to swing. What the hell is wrong with this forest? Usopp demanded. Luffy had never really disliked bugs before, but after all of this he was ready to eliminate them off the face of the earth. He'd just spent who knew how long running around the forest, fighting random bugs. Bees, mantis, beetles, slugs, and everything in between assaulted them constantly and refused to stop. Finally, after what felt like forever, he and the others converged in an opening together, all of them looking worse for wear. I assume we've all had the same problem, he said. This forest is hellish, Usopp shouted, and that bird is a prick. I swear if we didn't need it I'd fillet the little bastard, Sanji hissed. Ah, there you all are, Robin's voice safe. Everyone turned to watch the women cut through the brush on her own, having been the only one to go solo. I figured you might have run off, Zoro remarked. Not quite yet, Robin said with a wink. I'm used to working solo, so it just worked better for me. Cho. Everyone looked up in sync to see the south bird up in the trees, seemingly laughing at them. Luffy was getting more interested in Sanji's idea by the minute. Ah, there he is, Robin said. Luffy watched as arms sprouted straight out of the bird's body, grabbing it to prevent it from flying off. More arms sprouted off the trees and pushed it, causing the bird to tumble to the ground, squawking its head off. Chopper Visible flinched. That bird swears like a real pirate, he said. Luffy chuckled as he picked the bird up, still wrapped in arms. Had your fun, did you? He asked the bird, who looked alarmed at his current state. Listen closely, you little bugger. You're gonna come with us and point south. If ya don't, I'm trying Sanji's chicken wing recipe. Got it? Luffy didn't know how the bird understood him, but it nodded vigorously. Good. How long did that take us, anyway? The sun had set, Nami said, so a few hours, at least. Maybe we fry him up after we find the knock-up stream, Nijiko said. We'll figure that out later, Luffy replied. Let's get back to the old man before the sun rises and we lose our chance. Having found their psychotic bird, the crew reoriented themselves as best they could and made back for Cricket's house. Finding their way back in and of itself was a challenge, as they had gotten totally and completely lost. However, after a decent hike through the trees, they managed to find their way back to Cricket's before the sun rose. That wasn't the shocking part. That came when Luffy realized they'd walked straight into the aftermath of a battle. The area around Cricket's house looked like a battlefield. Various household items were strewn all over the place, the house itself looking in need of repairs. That wasn't the worst part. That came when he saw Cricket, Masira and Shoju were lying around on the ground, covered in blood and dirt. Cricket, he shouted, dropping the bird onto the ground as he ran to the man's side. Chopper ran up with him, assessing the damage. Various cuts and bruises, he said as Luffy shook him. Possible concussion, internal damage. Battle must have been pretty intense. Old man. Luffy shouted as he shook him harder. Wake up, would y'all? What happened? Cricket's eyes finally fluttered open as he rambled, making him wince as he did so. Damn it all, he hissed as he rubbed his head. Kid got us good. What happened here? Zoro asked, standing above Luffy. Some upstart from town came over here. Cricket replied as the others checked on Masira and Shoju. Claimed he'd heard about the gold we'd found and said he wanted it, took it for himself. Gold? Nami asked from Masira's side. You mean the gold you guys have been diving for? Yeah, Cricket said, glaring at the ground. All of it. He and his men took all of it. Luffy felt a vein bulge in his forehead. He recalled how Cricket said Nolan's lies had ruined his life. How he'd stayed here to find out if his ancestor was a liar or not. How Masira and Shoju had been helping him, diving day in and out. Cricket, he said in a low tone, do you know who did this? Huh? He asked. Well, his crew called him Bellamy. Bellamy. Of course. Luffy stood up straight, hat falling over his eyes. Nijiko, he said. Yeah? Nijiko asked. You're in charge of the others. Anything happens, you're the boss. You got it, Captain, Nijiko said. Zoro, Sanji, Luffy said as he turned. On me. Neither man objected, walking alongside Luffy as they turned away from the others. Don't do something stupid, kid, Cricket shouted, trying to stand. That gold isn't valuable enough to risk your life over. We need to outfit your ship for the knock-up stream. Not valuable enough? Luffy asked. He turned to meet the Mont's eye, not backing down. I disagree, Cricket. That gold is a part of your dream. No one ruins the dreams of my friends. Not while I have something to say about it. With this, he turned back, Zoro and Sanji following him as they made their way back to Mock Town. Mock Town was always a mess of people partying, drinking and screwing, but that night in particular was even more louder than usual. Inside the tavern closest to the sea, Bellamy the hyena and his crew sat and drank the night away, laughing at the large sum of gold they'd stolen from some old geezer. He deserved it, stupid fool. Who spends all day collecting gold for some silly old rumor? Bellamy ruminated on this as he swirled his glass around, watching the liquid inside swish with the motion. Today had been unexpectedly nice. First he got to thrash some morons who came in, next he stole millions in gold. This just kept getting better. Yo Bellamy, Sarquis called, what are we gonna do with all that gold? What do you think? He asked with a smirk backwards. We sell it off and then get stupid drunk. His crew roared in approval at this, making him cackle as he tossed back the rest of his whiskey. He was about to shout for another when the door to the bar exploded inward, flying off its hinges onto the floor. Turning, Bellamy saw the two morons from earlier in the day, along with some overdressed schmuck in a suit. Where the hell is Bellamy? The one in the straw hat demanded, face as vacant as ever. Although he couldn't lie, Bellamy detected anger in his eyes. What are you idiots doing out this late? Sarquis asked. Shouldn't you be in bed by now? Adults are the only ones awake at this hour. This caused the crew to roar with laughter, Bellamy smirking alongside them. None of the trio moved. I'm only gonna say it one time, he said. What was his name? Straw Hat Luffy? Give the old man his gold back? Ah, that's previous, Bellamy said. Whittle baby came to get the geezer's gold. Scram kid. Go bother someone else before I gut you like a fish. I don't know if you heard him, the suited moron said, smoking a cigarette. He said he was only gonna say it once. Bellamy clicked his teeth in annoyance at this. Get them out of my sight, he muttered. He heard members of his crew stand up chuckling, so he turned his back. He had no interest in watching kids get killed. He heard swords be unsheathed, pistols cock, and knew they were screwed. He heard them rush, a fight about to start. His eyes widened as members of his crew went flying over his head shouting in surprise, hitting the back wall and falling unconscious. He turned as he heard more of them getting attacked, and watched as another dozen of his men flying. The one in the suit jumped up from his hands, his spinning kicks having tossed away all his men. See, we didn't need to get so violent, he said, especially in front of the ladies. Bellamy assumed he was talking to the bar wenches on Sarkis's lap, and he growled. You're so tough, beating some random no-names, he said. Step outside with me, Straw Hat. I'll show you what a battle looks like. Sarquis, with me. The man moved the women off his lap and got up with him, both of them stalking behind the other pirates as they went out onto the street. He was going to beat this kid's ass so bad, he crawled back to the East Blue where he belonged. Take his swordsman for me, he told Sarquis, stretching his legs. I want them all beaten and bruised. Do you care if I slice him up a bit? Sarquis asked. Bellamy grinned like a wolf. Not at all, he said. Sarquis stepped out ahead of him, and Straw Hat nodded at his own swordsman. The man with green hair stepped out in front, looking bored of the state of affairs. Sarquis laughed. I hope you're ready, he called as he twirled his blade around his hand. They call me Big Knife Sarquis, and I'm gonna take this big knife, and show you why little kids shouldn't be running around the Grand Line. The swordsman drew two of his katana, looking bored. Introduction wasn't necessary, he said. I'll forget your name the second you're out of my sight anyway. Sarquis growled under his breath, pressing forward. He attacked with a flurry of blows, swinging his blade every which way and bending his body to attack at peculiar angles. It did nothing, the other swordsmen blocking them all with fluid defense. Sarquis swung high with his blade, but had it knocked out of the way. He went with the momentum and twisted his body, kicking at his opponent's stomach. This too was easily sidestepped. We don't have all night, Marimo, the man in a suit said. Bellamy noticed that he'd gone to stand with the women Sarquis had been with, an arm around each of them. Hurry it up. Don't tell me what to do, Marimo replied. Sarquis stood tall and laughed, turning to face his opponent. I knew I recognized you from somewhere, he said. Pirate Hunter Zoro. I knew I remembered seeing your face recently. You've been slumming it up with Straw Hat Luffy. Excellent observation, Zoro noted. If only your swordsmanship was as good as your eyesight. Do you think I care what an East Blue Guppy thinks of me? Sarkis asked. You're in the big pond now, Roronoa, and I'm gonna show you what a big fish looks like. Sarkis took off sprinting at Zoro, who remained perfectly still. After gaining momentum, Sarkis jumped into the air and spun vertically, his blade becoming a blur of steel. Big chop, he shouted, flying straight at Zoro, who still had not moved. One sword style. Lion song. Had Bellamy not been as strong as he was, he would have missed the attack happening. As Sarkis closed in, Zoro raised a single blade and, in one swift motion, slashed Sarkis diagonally across his body and sheathed the blade in an instant. Sarkis collapsed into the ground, not moving. Zoro looked back at him, a look of disinterest on his face. My students could have beaten you, he said, and my aim is a much higher peak than you. He then turned to Bellamy, eyeing him like a hawk would a mouse. Luffy isn't going to ask again. Bellamy could shake off the surprise of Sarkis's defeat later, he had a chump to beat up. Sorry Roronoa, I want a piece of your captain, he said, and I'm not handing over that treasure to anyone. That sucks, Straw Hat Luffy said as he walked in front of Zoro. I was hoping to beat your ass after I secured it all. I guess it doesn't matter which comes first. There was a beat of silence between the two, Bellamy leaning down as Luffy cracked his neck. As they stared each other down, he could hear someone running up behind them. Bellamy, he heard someone shout, Bellamy, don't. You can tell me later, he snarled angrily, I'm busy. No you don't understand, the man shouted, slurring his words. Straw Hat Luffy isn't worth 30 million. Ha! I could have figured that. He's worth 110 million, Bellamy's eyes widened and whirled in surprise, seeing one of his men brandishing a bounty poster. He stalked up to him and grabbed it, staring at it in surprise. Wanted for subverting justice, piracy, acts of terror, and the kidnapping of Princess Nefertari Vivi of Alabasta, he read. He looked up at Luffy, who stared at him blankly. Seems you're actually a horrible man, Straw Hat, you don't look it. Half that is lies, Luffy replied. Didn't even mention I kicked Crocodile's ass. Bellamy couldn't help the barking laughter that erupted from his throat. You defeat Crocodile? Ah, I see now. You're the modern-day Mont Blanc Noland? Lying and scheming your way up the ladder. Trying to lie your way to Roger's treasure, Bellamy bent down, his lower legs becoming springs. He sprung from the ground to the face of a nearby building, torqued his body, and sprung off of it as well. He aimed a kick straight for Luffy's face, who dodged it by sidestepping him. Bellamy carried his momentum to the ground and sprung up again, landing on a nearby rooftop. Didn't you say you'd kick my ass? Luffy demanded, staring up at him. Stop running from me. I just need a nice, good look at you, Bellamy said. A modern Noland, lying and dreaming about fake treasures and islands in the sky. You know what you are, Straw Hat Luffy? Naive. You went out to sea without knowing how the real world works, and it shows. Say his treasure was all in one place. To get back at the world government, he replied, he started this golden age of piracy. That speech atop the execution stand was nothing but a call to arms for other pirates. The One Piece isn't real, same goes for Noland. Do you really think something as absurd as an island in the sky could exist? He said whatever he had to say his own ass. This age of dreams must come to an end. The world is ripe with treasures for the taking, if only morons like you weren't focused on the lies of a dead man. He launched himself directly at Luffy, whose eyes were hidden beneath the brim of his hat. He hadn't moved, so Bellamy would haunt him this time. Until his spine flexed at an impossible angle, his body dropping out of the way of Bellamy's attack. He missed by only a hair, recovering quickly and retreating a few steps to watch the man with a smirk. So the moron did have a devil fruit. He wasn't totally useless. Stay focused on reality, Straw Hat, Bellamy said. Take note of the ocean of wealth before you instead of looking for an imaginary golden city. Luffy had still not replied to his taunting, which only made it funnier. Sorry to burst your bubble, kid, but it's the cold hard truth. It's all made up. The only cold hard truth I can see is that you still haven't given me the old man's gold, or beat my ass like you said you would. Luffy replied. One of his eyes peeked out from under the hat, glaring a hole at Bellamy. What's the matter, hyena? Scared the rumors on that poster are true? Bellamy grit his teeth at this in annoyance. This kid had to go already? I warned you, Straw Hat, he growled. I hope your mom doesn't grieve for you too much. Tightening his spring legs, Bellamy took off towards the ground. Once he got there, he landed and sprung again towards another building. Then again, his speed increasing every time. Despite the breakneck speeds he was traveling at, he could still see Straw Hat not moving at all. I'll end this in one blow, he shouted over the noise of the springs. Prepare yourself, Straw Hat, Spring Hopper. Kicking off one more time, Bellamy rocketing straight for Straw Hat's face. He raised his fist, preparing to strike with enough force to blow a hole in a Navy galleon. He saw the other pirate had also raised his fist, looking directly at him. Bellamy heard the crunching of bones, and everything went dark. Luffy slammed his fist into Bellamy's face with all the strength in his body, slamming the spring man down into the pavement. The hyena's face created a crater as he hit the ground, his eyes blank and expressionless. He was down. Maybe you should start dreaming too, Luffy noted as he flexed his arm. About landing a hit, or surviving one. He turned to look at Zoro, who was watching him in amusement. Nice punch, the first mate told him. Luffy snickered. Wasn't it? He asked. Now I wonder where that gold is. Right here, Sanji's voice said. Turning, Luffy watched as Sanji walked over to them with a bag strung over his shoulder. The women from earlier still attached to him. These lovely ladies showed me where those goons hid it. Bellamy and Sarkis talked too much, one said in a sultry tone, running her hand down Sanji's chest. I prefer the strong and silent type. Me too, her friend agreed from Sanji's other side. Makes it hotter when they kick someone's ass. Ladies, Sanji noted as he took a drag from his cigarette, a man who is silent is the man worth worrying about. Keep that in mind in future. Chumps like these two are the ones who won't survive out here, running their mouths. Where's the rest of Bellamy's crew go? Luffy asked, noticing the crowd that had surrounded them was gone. They ran with their tails between their legs to the docks, one of the women said. They did when Bellamy used that last technique. Should we chase M down? Zoro asked. Luffy shook his head and adjusted his hat. We made our point and got the gold, he said. I don't care what his crew has to say about it. Let's go, guys. Yes, that includes you, Sanji. I know, Sanji snarled, not happy he had to leave when two women were all over him. Ladies, I'm afraid my friends and I have pressing matters elsewhere. As much as I would love to accompany you tonight, I am needed. I'm sure you are, big boy, one of them purred. Keep us in mind when you guys get back from the Sky Island. Huh? The two women sauntered back to the bar, leaving Sanji be. I'm impressed you held out like that, Zoro noted. If that was any of the women in our crew you'd have folded like a piece of paper. Let's not talk about it, or I'll sprint in after them, Sanji said as he shifted the bag of gold on his back. Well, if they saw how lame you really are, you'd end up alone anyway, Luffy said, making Zoro laugh. Shut up, Sanji shouted, let's just go before I change my mind. Luffy nodded and began walking back the direction they came, glad they had settled things so quickly. Hey, someone shouted. Luffy paused and turned to look, seeing Sarkis trying to struggle to his feet. This isn't over yet. Where do you think you're going? Luffy stared at him like he was an idiot. Where? He asked. Didn't you pay any attention? He pointed his finger up the sky. We're going up. The world, much like the oceans, was in constant motion. As Luffy and his crew worked towards riding the knock-up stream and finding Sky Islands, they were unaware of what was going on around the world. They did not know that Buggy and his crew were close, searching for Captain John's treasure, or that he had encountered Ace. They didn't know that Shanks had met with Whitebeard, scaring the 5 elders of Marihoa that an alliance of emperors was forming. They had no clue that, even as they prepared to fly, a man named Marshal D. Teach was to learn of their bounties. They also didn't know just how good it would have been to put him in the ground at that moment, before his plans progressed. One's knowledge of events was limited to what happened before their eyes. Despite this, events behind the scenes moved the world an inch closer to total chaos, and an event that would shock the world to its core and jumpstart a new age of piracy. And everyone would be privy to that information. Nijiko and the rest of the crew spent all night working on the Mary to prepare her for flight, which hasn't a good sign. Luffy and the others should have been back sooner than this. Her worries were soon squandered, however, as she heard some rustling coming from the bushes nearby. She watched with a smile as Luffy, Zoro and Sanji appeared from the woods, Luffy carrying a large bag over his shoulder just as the sun crested the horizon. "Hey guys," he called, getting everyone's attention. "We got the gold back." This caused a cheer to erupt from Masira and Shoju's ships, as well as from the more excitable of the Straw Hats. Luffy proudly walked to where Cricket was sitting, setting the bag down at his feet. "You got it, huh?" the man asked, smoking another cigarette. "Of course, I said I would," Luffy said blankly. "Wasn't that hard?" "Did you have to fight Bellamy and his crew?" Cricket asked. "Yeah. And you beat him?" "Yeah, obviously." Ijiko laughed at Cricket's somewhat surprised expectation. "He's got a habit of defying expectation," she said, punching Luffy in the side of the head. This made his skull bounce back and forth like a ball on a string. "I hope you gave him and that silver-haired bastard a good punch for me." "He sure did," Sanji noted. "I doubt Bellamy will ever get the taste of rubber knuckles out of his mouth." Cricket was silent as he pulled a gold ringlet from the bag, laughing as he turned it in his fingers. "You sure know how to surprise an old man, kid," he said, "a pirate who fights to return stolen goods. Now I see it all." "Well, I can steal it if you want," Luffy offered, holding out a hand like he expected Cricket to just give it back to him. This made the injured man laugh even more. "You're a good spirit. As thanks, the boys and I will make sure you get to the Sky Islands or die trying. Or rather, I guess you'll die trying, but that's not important." "I disagree," Usopp shouted from the deck of the Mary. Speaking of the Mary, Luffy had finally gotten a good look at the ship and gasped. "Mary has wings," he shouted in amazement, making his way to the ship to marvel at the additions. "She looks like a turkey." "Will that really help us ride the stream?" Zoro asked curiously. "You're damn right it will," Cricket said as he crossed his arms. "Not to mention, we reinforced the hull of her just in case. Even if you fall, I think the old girl will survive." "You guys got a lot done while we were gone," Sanji noted. "I'm sure Luffy's grateful," Cricket laughed. "If anyone should be grateful, it's me," he said. "I just wish I saw the look on that punk's face when he got his shit kicked in. Anyway, Straw Hat, is everything good to go?" "I should be asking you, shouldn't I?" Luffy called back from his seat on Mary's head. "I'm ready whenever." "Well, the captain said we're ready," Cricket said with a shrug. "All right men, let's set out for the knock-up stream and find it early. We've got the South Bird to show the way." "You heard Cricket," Masira shouted. "Lower the mast into the wind. We have a stream to catch." "I really hope we don't die trying to fly into the sky," Nijiko said with a sigh. "That'll be really embarrassing." Cricket just laughed uproariously at her. "It'd be a tale I tell to anyone who listens," he said, "the pirates who flew too close to the sun and fell back down to earth." "Please do not jinx it," Usopp shouted. Soon enough, the Going Merry was sailing directly behind Masira and Shoju's ships, the sun already high in the sky. Because of all the extra help they had from his crew, they had apparently finished renovating faster than they had expected. Unless something bad happened, they were making perfect time. "Watch this," Luffy said, Johnny and Yosaku watching the bird intently. Luffy grabbed the captured bird's head and twisted its neck so it was looking a different direction, and let go. The bird's head snapped back to where it had been, pointing south. "Whoa! This bird is so weird," Yosaku said. "Does he have anything to say, little bro Chopper?" "He's mostly been quiet for a while," Chopper replied from Robin's lap where they were sitting. He stopped cursing too. "What do bird curses sound like?" Luffy asked curiously. "You don't want to know," Chopper muttered. He actually very much did want to know, but he didn't get the chance to ask. "Straw Hat," Masira's voice shouted from the ship beside them, "we have news." "What is it, big man?" Luffy asked, bounding to the railing to see him. "Our divers have spotted it, a big whirlpool, forming right ahead of us." He pointed in the same direction the bird was looking. "That's the sign of the knock-up stream. She'll be forming up there." Luffy stretched his neck upwards to get a look, and he could indeed see the ocean was starting to swirl. "To dimension that," Nami noted quietly. He turned to look at his navigator, who pointed up, following her finger. Luffy saw a massive darkness, much like the one before, fast approaching their location. "The Millennium Alonimbus is coming." "Listen, Straw Hat, Ms. Nami," Masira shouted. "This is important. You have to ride the waves of the whirlpool until she calms down, then get to the center. That is where the stream will erupt from. Ride the whirlpool? Usopp screeched, we'll die. We'll be fine, Luffy replied, we've got Nami. No one can read the ocean quite like she can. Luffy noted her cheeks flushed a little at his compliment, rubbing the back of her head. I am very knowledgeable about the ocean, she bragged, trying to look like it was no big deal. Alright. Let's do this. I'll navigate us straight into that whirlpool. Everyone get over here. The Straw Hat crew all flooded at the words of their current commander, awaiting instruction. Chopper, Johnny, Yosaku. You three are in charge of the rudder. We need to keep it in line with the whirlpool's waves. But fight it just enough to resist getting dragged under. 2 of you steer, 1 of you relay my instructions. Yes, big sis. The twin swordsmen shouted, grabbing the doctor from Robin and running for the cabin. Sanji, Zoro, Luffy, Usopp. You 4 will work the mast and sails. It's a combination of everything that will stop us from getting dragged under. You need to listen to me quick if we don't want to die. You got it, Zoro said, turning around. Anything for you, Nami Swan, Sanji agreed. Nijiko, Vivi, I need both of you to keep your eyes open on either side of us and report any changes to me. If you see the waves acting odd or something that doesn't add up, say so, it doesn't matter what. Yes, Ms. President, Nijiko said sarcastically with a salute. Vivi comically followed her lead, walking to the side of Mary opposite the other blue-haired girl. Marianne, I need you in the crow's nest. You're the one who's gonna tell me how close we are and how strong the waves are, same as the others. You see anything odd, pass it on. You're giving me a pretty important job. Marianne muttered as she turned to look up at the crow's nest way above them. Robin chuckled. Come on, Ms. Golden Week. We'll go up together. Before she could object, hands spawned underneath the painter and tossed her to the mast, where another pair of hands caught her and tossed her up to another pair. This process repeated until she was thrown into the crow's nest with a thud. Robin followed her up with an innocent smile, taking the ladder like a normal person. Luffy turned and saw that everyone was now in position, awaiting orders. The Mary drifted closer and closer to the whirlpool as the darkness approached. Luffy tensed up and prepared to adjust the sails as he needed to. Nami was watching the water ahead of them intently, waiting for a sign. Ms. Navigator, Robin's voice called from up top, making him. Look! We can see an odd-looking ship coming this way. It looks like a raft. How close? Nami asked. More than a nautical mile out, she replied. Don't worry about it, they're too far, Nami said. Especially because the whirlpool is starting. She was proven correct as the Mary started to list to the right, the waves drawing them in. Johnny, straight the rudder, she shouted. The swordsman relayed this to Yosaku and Chopper, and soon the ship straightened up against the waves as they began to spin. If the bird is looking south, that means the wind is coming from the west, she said. Luffy, you guys, angle the sails to match where the wind is blowing. You got it, Luffy shouted, working with the other men to reposition the sails. He spread a look to see the darkness was almost on top of them, the sky darkening around them. The sails had been repositioned, and the Mary continued to sail as the whirlpool started to intensify. Nami barked orders like a seasoned Navy admiral, ordering everyone around left and right. Used to her orders, the crew responded quickly and made sure the Mary spun the whirlpool with ease. Nami told Johnny to aim them inward towards the center of the whirlpool, so they could drift closer to it without Mary exploding. Luffy could just barely see Shoju and Masira's ships outside the whirlpool, watching for their success. Or death, whichever happened. Nami, we're really close to the edge, Vivi warned. Johnny, help those two fight the pull, she shouted, we'll get dragged under if they don't correct course. You got it, Johnny shouted, bounding inside the cabin. Mary soon stabilized, riding the very edge of the whirlpool. Luffy heard the ship groan a few times, praying every time was not the last before she burst into a million pieces. After what felt like forever and adjusting the sails, the whirlpool started to die away. The waves were disappeared underwater, which told Luffy it was about to happen. Here comes the blast, Nami shouted. Johnny, we need to get to the left. The ship responded to the motion, riding the rest of the waves straight into the aforementioned center of the whirlpool. Lift the sails, we don't want to go any further forward. Luffy caught the rope for the sails as Zoro tossed it to him, tying up the fabric to avoid it snapping off. Now, all of you down here, anyone still on the mast will be flung off if this thing isn't intense, as Cricket said. Luffy nodded, bouncing up to grab Robin and Marianne to get them down faster. Neither argued, obviously not wanting to die. Before long the whole crew was on the main deck, watching and waiting. Silence engulfed the Mary, everyone watching with bated breath to see what was going to happen. For a little longer than was comfortable, nothing did. The waves just crashed against the hull, the darkness from the cloud above making it impossible to see. Maybe nothing will happen. Usopp's sentence was cut off when the ocean beneath Mary exploded upwards. Cricket watched as the knock-up stream exploded, flying high into the sky and punching a hole in the Millennium Alonimbus. He was too far away to see if there was a ship riding the current, but he was sure they'd made it in time. The extra hands the Straw Hat crew provided had seen to that. "Good luck, you crazy kids," he shouted, raising his glass to the sky. "Hopefully you don't die." "Oh come on, what the hell is that?" Marshal D. Teach shouted, staring up at the column of water before him. "No clue," one of his men replied, "but it seems we lost Straw Hat Luffy." Marshal grumbled irritably at this, balling up the wanted poster into a ball and tossing it into the ocean. "Whatever," he muttered, "we'll see 'em again, boys. If they survive, that is. We've got other shit we need to do. Come on, let's make some space before Fire Fist comes a-knockin'." Luffy laughed like a maniac as Mary flew through the air, rocketing skyward at speeds he never thought he'd reach on a ship. "This is awesome," he shouted as Mary flew, trying his best to keep his footing. "Yeah, for now," Nami shouted, "but we're gonna fall if we don't do something, because we've drifted to the edge of the stream." Luffy looked over to see she was right. Mary was riding the edge of the stream, and they were losing speed by the second. "Luffy, make yourself useful and open the sails. We need to catch the explosion of wind the stream made." Obeying her swiftly, Luffy stretched his arms and flew up the mast, untying the sails and throwing them downward. Once the sails were released, they exploded upwards as they got the massive upstream of wind, Mary jerking forward as her speed increased. "That good?" he called down to Nami, who gave him a thumbs up. "Good work," she shouted. "With that, we should be able to ride this thing long enough. Soon, the wings will—" Nami was interrupted by Mary groaning. Luffy watched in awe as the wind caught the wings installed on the sides of the ship, increasing their speed even more. Up and up they went, farther and farther into the clouds. Luffy was practically bouncing with excitement, keeping his eyes on the sky as they accelerated into this insane adventure. He was so excited, he was lightheaded. No, wait, he was definitely lightheaded. Once Luffy got back down on the deck, he nearly collapsed. "I'm kinda dizzy," he muttered. Looking around, he saw the others were dazed and confused as well, and it was only getting worse. "It's high-altitude sickness," Chopper shouted, on his knees. "There's less oxygen high in the sky. We're gonna suffocate before we get there." "I knew this was gonna get us killed," Usopp shouted. "Why did we have to do something so stupid?" "It's been an honor, big bro Luffy," Johnny shouted, rolling onto his back as he panted for air. "Tell my family I love them." "What family?" Luffy asked him, wondering who he was supposed to relay this information to. "This has got to be one of the lamest ways to go," Marianne muttered, coughing as she gasped for a breath. "Like, seriously? Suffocating as you fly thousands of feet into the air? What the hell, man?" "Well, at least we'll look good when we slam back down into the water and Mary shatters into a million pieces," Robin said, somehow still cheery. "Our bodies wouldn't survive the fall, of course, not from this height. We'd all turn into goo when we hit the water and be scattered with the current." "Maybe you should stop, Robin," Vivi offered weakly from the railing she was holding onto. "I'm already gonna be sick." Luffy felt like joining her. It was too hard to breathe up here. Maybe Cricket should have told them that and left them a bunch of those diving suits. They could throw a hose back down to regular heights and— Before Luffy's stupid thought could finish itself, Mary blasted through another layer of clouds and revealed the sun again. She lost her momentum quickly and fell back downward, slamming hard into what sounded like water. A horrific snap sounded, which he guessed was the wings coming off. They had been through a lot, so it was a bit presumptuous to assume they'd survive the journey. He couldn't tell though, because he was paralyzed by oxygen deprivation just like the others were. Still, he fought to the railing and lifted himself up it, looking over weakly. "Holy shit," he shouted, "guys, take a look at this." He heard everyone grumbling behind him as they stood, but he was too stunned to look away. Spread out before them was a vast white ocean of clouds, which flowed like water all around them. He realized quickly that the sun was still hidden behind more clouds, but it was strong enough to shine through to where they were. An ocean in the sky, he heard Nami muttered, "I can't believe it." Luffy laughed at this. "Might want to write that one down for your map," he told her. She laughed in disbelief. "I'll have two, yeah," she agreed. "It's amazing something like this could exist." She looked down at the log pose, and Luffy noted a problem. "Oi," he said, "why is it still pointing up?" The log pose on Nami's arm was still pointing skyward, telling them they had not traveled far enough. "Oh come on," Yosaku shouted, sinking back down to the deck when he saw it. "We have to go higher, man?" "How do we do that, I wonder," Nami murmured, watching the log pose intently before scanning their surroundings. "Perhaps we only made it halfway up," Robin offered as she walked over to them. "An interesting thought, a layered island in the clouds." "We need to find a way up," Nami deduced. "Which means we need to learn about the sea. Who wants to test the water for us?" No one spoke. "Don't make me pick for us," Najiko warned. "Whoever volunteers will get away from chore duty for a week." This caused a scramble to be chosen for the job. In the end, though, it was decided Sanji was going. His legs were stronger than everyone else's, so he could swim and dive faster than everyone. "Well, I guess I gotta take one for the team," Sanji muttered, walking over to the railing. "If I fall back down, I swear I'll haunt you all." "I'll be counting my prayers that you do," Zoro replied. The cook cast him an irritated glare before he hopped up on the edge and peered over at the clouds. "Well, here goes nothing." With this Sanji leapt from the railing, and fell downward. He splashed in the water like he would have below, and he surfaced easily as he would below. "How is it?" Nami asked him. "Like regular water, I think," Sanji replied. He swam around the Mary in a circle, humming to himself. "Yeah, it's just like water. No different." "Can you dive?" Nami asked. "Wha seriously? What if I fall out of the cloud?" "Luffy, grab his ankle," Najiko instructed. Luffy did as he was told and stretched his arm, sending it down to Sanji's leg and grabbing a hold of him. "There, now you won't fall out," Najiko told him. Sanji looked apprehensive. "I don't know," he said. "This is seriously dangerous. Can we explore a different way?" "Please Sanji," Nami asked. Luffy noticed she was batting her eyelashes at the cook. "For me?" Sanji was below the clouds before Nami was finished her sentence, which made her snort. Luffy did his duty as rope, extending his arm more and more as Sanji dove deeper. Wow, the cook sure could go fast, couldn't he? Luffy had not stretched his arm like this in a while. Before long, though, something felt off. The resistance below felt much lighter, and his arm was swaying slightly. "Huh," he muttered, "wonder what that means." He watched his arm sway to and fro for a moment, wondering what it meant. Robin stood next to him and raised her arms, closing her eyes. He heard her suck in a breath quickly. "Luffy, pull him up," she said, panic in her eyes. "He's hanging out of the clouds only by your grip." "What?" Luffy shouted. He retracted his arm as quickly as possible and, within 20 seconds Sanji erupted from the water and flew back onto the deck, panting heavily as he held a hand to his chest. "I am not volunteering next time," he exclaimed. Luffy laughed at this. "Come on Sanji, he's swaying from my arm like that?" "No, I thought I was toast. You had a little fun." "No, I didn't know." Sanji's complaints were interrupted as the clouds exploded around them. Luffy looked back to see a gigantic octopus had surfaced, glaring at them angrily. "Seems there's local wildlife as well," Robin noted like as was an innocent curiosity. Luffy frowned. "Can you guys get that?" he asked. "I'm kinda hungry for octopus." His order was carried out immediately, the 3 swordsmen on the crew flying into the air at the octopus. He was not prepared for the outcome. As Yosaku and Johnny slashed at its tentacles and Zoro went for its head, wherever it was, Luffy watched the octopus pop like a balloon would. Its skin exploded out in different directions as it died. The swordsmen landed in confusion, sharing curious looks. "No resistance to that thing," Yosaku said. swinging his sword vertically to test his arm. It was so light and easily killed. Yeah, that was odd, Johnny said. Well, I've never killed an octopus before, so maybe they all do that. Don't be stupid, Zoro told his students as he sheathed his blades. Clearly sky animals are a bit different. It is fascinating, isn't it? Robin asked. Animals who have adapted to life in the skies, evolving to match their environment. Life finds a way. Can we find a way? Vivi asked as she hugged herself. It's kinda cold up here. Luffy wondered what she was talking about for a minute before he remembered Vivi's home was a desert. She was not accustomed to being exposed to cold temperatures. She'd had a coat on drum, after all. Here, currently, she did not. Good point, Luffy said. Alright guys, look around for anything that looks out of the ordinary. Well, more than we've already seen. So, I guess just look for something we haven't noticed yet? I dunno. What a spurring order, Nijiko teased. I'm so ready to go. I'm not as good at barking orders as you are, Commander Hard-Ass, Luffy shot back. Sorry, did you say swabbing the deck for 2 months? No, nothing like that, haha, don't sweat it Nijiko. I would never. Nijiko looked annoyed with him, but he could tell she was entertained. Her eyes gave her away. That looks weird, Chopper noted. Luffy turned to see the raccoon dog holding their binoculars, looking out into the sky. What is? Usopp asked him, walking over. I can see another ship, Chopper said. Like ours, I mean. It's just over that wall. Chopper cried out in surprise and fell from the railing, backing away from it quickly. Chopper, what did you see? Luffy asked, senses on high alert now. The ship exploded into a fireball. Chopper shouted as he jumped to his feet and held onto Robin's leg. She looked mildly entertained by this. There was a rhino on the clouds, and it's coming this way. A rhino? Marianne asked. Hey Chopper, is hallucinations a part of high-altitude sickness? Because that sure sounds like a… Marianne, too, was interrupted as a man skillfully jumped up onto the Mary's deck. He looked as Chopper described, wearing a rhino mask and clutching a giant weapon. Don't start something you can't finish, my friend, Luffy warned him. The man did not reply and jumped for him, aiming his open palm at him. Luffy stretched his arm back to counter, but found he was sluggish and heavy. Huh? Was all he managed before the man slammed his palm into his face and drove him down into the deck. Luffy groaned as his head spun, just barely able to see the battle through his squinted eyes. The intruder swept Sanji off his legs and hit Zoro in the head with his weapon, both hitting the deck as well. Johnny and Yosaku charged him, but they too were fought off as the man slammed his palm into Johnny's stomach and his weapon into Yosaku's face. They both went down. Nijiko raised a pistol and aimed it at him, and Usopp was on the upper deck aiming at him with his rifle. One more step, the quartermaster warned, cocking the hammer on the revolver back, and Usopp takes your head off. Why yeah, Usopp called, trying to appear brave behind the scope. I won't miss at this distance. Luffy had to give the intruder credit. The weapons made him pause his assault. Luffy saw the man's muscles tensing up from where he lay. Another attack was coming. Guys, look out! He managed to groan out. Luckily, he hadn't needed to worry. Blue Bomb of Serenity. A small metal ball left Marianne's hands as she peered out of the cabin. The ball soared through the air and exploded. Blue paint flying straight at the intruder. The man did not dodge fast enough, and ended up drenched in the blue paint. Luffy smiled as the man's muscles began to relax and he stood up straighter. He was done, at least for now. Good job Mari, he called as the painter revealed herself. She blushed at his compliment. Someone has to save your sorry ass, Captain, she said. Stop hiding Chopper, he's done fighting for now. Chopper too appeared from the cabin, hiding his small frame behind Marianne's only slightly bigger frame. Luffy groaned as he got to his feet, rubbing his head. What the hell was that, you guys? Nami asked. He kicked all your asses. Something isn't right up here, big sis, Yosaku said. My head hurts, and my muscles are all slow and weak. That's the altitude doing that, Chopper explained. See, the human body runs on oxygen. Your blood, and by proxy your muscles, need oxygen to operate. There's less of it up here, so you guys aren't getting enough air to fight at full capacity. Wish I knew that before I ran at him, Zoro muttered, rubbing his head. What's Rhino Boy's deal? Let's find out, Marianne said, looking up at the man she'd stopped. Reveal yourself, stranger, or Usopp really will take your head off. As usual with victims of Mary's paint, the man complied with the order. He reached up and took off his mask, revealing his tattooed face. He had a swirly tattoo over and under one of his eyes, and one across his upper body on the same side. His brown hair was shaved except for one single braid, which fell to his lower back. His body was as built as some of the toughest guys Luffy knew, which wasn't a good sign. The man's only clothing was a grass skirt, held up by a rope belt. Name's Wiper, the man said gruffly. Sorry for trying to kill you. Wasn't chill of me. Ah, right. Mary's paints made people talk very oddly when under the influence. No it wasn't, the small painter agreed. What the hell was that about? All trespassers from the Blue Sea deserve it, Wiper replied. Except you guys, I guess. You're pretty cool. Blue Sea? Nami asked. He must mean the ocean below. Yeah, that, Wiper agreed. Most of them are pricks, like those guys I just dealt with. Thought you guys were too, but you're pretty nice. Why attack? Marianne pressed. What's the reason you hate Blue Sea folk? Well, we already got enough problems with intruders cause of that bastard Enel, Wiper said. We don't need more problems from stupid explorers. Not you guys, obviously. It's good practice. Wiper had just thrown a whole lot at them with no context, which just made Luffy's head hurt even more. Marianne looked displeased with his answers, so she cast a glance at him. Luffy noted she was probably asking his permission. He simply nodded at her. Hey Wiper, she said. We're gonna take a nap, okay? You must be tired. Not really, Wiper said as Marianne approached him. I can still fight. Wow. I guess I am tired. As the man spoke, Mari had painted a gray circle on his leg. Exhaustion gray. I guess I'll take a nap too. Anywhere cool? Yeah, of course, Marianne said. The entire crew watched as Wiper walked over the wall of the cabin, sat with his back against it, and promptly fell asleep. They watched him for half a second, but he did not awaken. What would we do without you, little sis Mari? Johnny asked, scooping the girl up in his arms. You're so cool it's unfair. Put me down, you oaf, she said abashedly. Not before I sing your praises, Johnny said, spinning in a circle with her, with glee. Get his stuff from him, Luffy said. All of it. The crew moved on his order, stripping Wiper of all his possessions save his skirt, moving it away from him. Luffy took inventory for a second and saw a shield with a painting on it, some sort of launcher, a knife, some weird shell things, and what looked like skates. What the hell was all that? He'd ask Robin later. Tie him up. You got it, Zoro said. He and Sanji moved together and dragged Wiper to the mast of the ship, grabbed a pile of rope, and tied it tightly around him. Usopp gave pointers from nearby, and soon the intruder was covered in rope except for his head. Good work team, Luffy announced as Zoro and Sanji moved away. Especially you Mari, what would we do without you? Why you'd be fine, Marianne muttered, her eyes being hidden beneath her sun hat when Johnny put a hand on her head with a laugh. Now what do we do? Vivi asked, still hugging herself to stay warm. Wait until we wakes up. We could, Nijiko said. With you here, we can probably negotiate with him. You think he'll listen to me? Vivi asked. You kidding? Luffy asked, throwing an arm around her. I bet the Pirate King could be swayed by you. Vivi? It was the princess's turn to look embarrassed. But Luffy didn't have time to tease her. Let's see what we can do before we wakes up. Nijiko, you're smart, think up a plan with Vivi for when he wakes up. You got it Captain, she said. What do you think, Vivi? Luffy watched the two blue-haired girls walk off to the side to engage in planning, so he turned to the others. The rest of us need to figure out what's going on around here. Perhaps I may be of help. Luffy jumped and whirled at the voice he didn't recognize, and what he saw didn't help deter him. A gigantic bird landed on the edge of the Mary, which was bright pink with red polka dots. That was disturbing by itself, let alone what got off its back. He could only be described as a knight. But knights lived in castles, he knew that. Why was a knight in the sky? Don't surprise us like that, Nami said with her claim attack ready. You can see what happened to the last guy. Yes, the man agreed. Luffy realized he was old with a huge beard. Aside from that though, the poor guy was scrawny. Not a scary knight. You sure handed it to Wiper. and he'd a very strong Shandia warrior. Whoever subdued him must be very powerful. Any more compliments and I swear I'm jumping overboard, Mari shouted, her face beat red. The knight ignored her outburst. Where are my manners? He asked. My name is Gonfall. I am what they call the Knight of the Sky. Never would have guessed, Sanji noted. Gonfall ignored this too. And my compatriot's name is Pierre, he said, gesturing to the bird. The bird cawed and raised its wing at them. Hey little bro Chopper, Luffy heard Johnny whisper. Can you understand the bird? Chopper hummed in confusion. Kinda. It sounds like he's talking with a thick accent. It's hard to describe, but he talks different than animals down below. Who names a bird Pierre? Yosaku muttered to himself. I'd name him Spot, look at those spots. Luffy had to refocus on the important conversation here, he was losing track of the conversation. I assume you lot are from the Blue Sea, he said. It's impressive you took down Wiper while weakened. Luffy half expected to see Marianne take a swan dive into the clouds. But she didn't. We are 7,000 meters above the Blue Sea, after all. Up here, oxygen is very scarce and people like you all struggle to make it. It's even worse at the White Sea 3,000 meters above us. Luffy inhaled deeply at this, and he was annoyed that his lungs still felt empty. Why could this Wiper guy surf on the waves with no boat or anything? Vivi asked. Was it those skates we took from him? It was, Gonfall said. They're an invention of the people who live up here, but questions can wait. I need to talk business. Gonfall cleared his throat and stood a little straighter. These seas are dangerous for Blue Sea people. Even if you defeated Wiper, he will not be the last. Many of his people roam these seas taking down anyone they see. There will be more. But for 50 million extol I could be hired to protect you. What do you say? 50 million say what? Nami asked. Extol, Gonfall replied. Surely you know of the currency in these lands. 50 million is a fair price. I promise you, much better than you will find elsewhere. We don't have any extol, Nijiko said, and if we did, I wouldn't give you 50 million. Wah, how can you not have any extol? Gonfall asked with a raised eyebrow. Surely you gathered some from the lower islands on your way up here. Lower islands? Nami asked. Yes, the sky islands below us. You went through them, yes? Gonfall blinked. Surely you didn't ride the stream? It's so dangerous. Luffy cast a wary eye at Nami, who he could tell was close to bursting. He needed to defuse her before he got punched for making her take the stream. We have nothing to worry about, he exclaimed, wrapping an arm around Nami as if to present her to the old man. We have the best navigator in all the seas. Right, Nami? HMPH, of course you do, Nami said, cheeks pink. Good, he'd diffused that ass-kicking. It was a good thing Nami's weakness was stroking her ego. In money, but he already owed all his to her anyway. He didn't need more debt. I got us through that stream no problem. Did you now? Gonfall asked. You're a cut above the usual explorers, I'll tell you that. Here, you can have a free whistle. Call it a prize for being so tenacious. The man dug into his pocket and tossed a whistle at Luffy, who caught it. Looking closer at it, he saw it was just any old whistle. Who cared? Here, Nami, he said, tossing it to her. You earned it. Oh, thanks, Nami said. What is it exactly? A whistle to call me, Gonfall replied. The first is free, but after that I'll charge you. Only fair, don't you agree? Luffy thought the old man was kinda a cheapskate, but he didn't voice this concern. Now, I'd love to stick around, but I have matters to attend. Fare thee well, travelers, I wish you well on your journey. Wait, Nami shouted. How do we get higher? We're kinda stuck here. Gonfall replied. Travel a bit further north than this. There you will find a bouncy cloud that acts as a barrier. You will find a small passage through it, and you will arrive at Heaven's Gate. Heaven's Gate? Usopp asked. We really are going to die, aren't we? Stop being such a wuss, big bro, Yosaku said, slapping Usopp on the back. We'll be fine. Do be quick though, Gonfall warned. If you're too slow, your prisoner might be noticed by his allies in the area, and you'll be set upon again. Make haste. He does have a point, Nijiko said as Gonfall turned to his bird. So, why the bird? He your friend? Friend and ally, Gonfall said. For Pierre has eaten a horse fruit. As such, He can transform into a flying horse for me to ride into battle." "A Pegasus?" Chopper asked. "I thought they were a myth." Gonfal laughed and gestured to Pierre, who looked full of himself. "Feast your eyes on one," he said. "Pierre, do your thing." At his word, Pierre cawed and began to morph. His wings turned to legs, and his face began to extend. He looked like a horse all right. The ugliest horse Luffy had ever seen. It took everything he had not to laugh at Pierre's stupid polka dots. Gonfal got on the horrid beast's back, and Pierre took off. Luffy could just barely see the man waving to them as he flew away. "The sky is weird," he decided. "Coming from you?" Nami asked. "Yeah, it's weird all right." "What's that supposed to mean?" "Nothing, Captain. Now, get your rubber ass in gear so we can go." The crew quickly fell into working order, the Mary slowly heading towards the direction Gonfal had pointed them in. It was slow going, what with the lack of wind-up in the Cloud Sea, but they managed. They also didn't see any of Wiper's presumed allies, which was Alan the bouncy cloud Gonfal described, and as much as Luffy wanted to bounce on it, they had to hurry before someone saw Wiper passed out and tied up. They found the opening relatively quickly and, with a little of Nami's navigating expertise, they got through the twists and turns of it easy enough. Once they rounded the last bend, Luffy looked up and saw something amazing. "A gate?" he asked. The Heaven's Gate, as it was a literal gate, like to a theme park and everything. "It's like we're already dead," Usopp moaned. "Or in line at a park," Vivi said. "Anyone got the entry fee?" "We're pirates, Vivi, we don't pay for squat," Nami said. "Once a gold hoarder, always a gold hoarder," Zoro said. Nami smacked the back of his head, making him snort. "Maybe we'll get a free entry like Gonfal gave us a free whistle?" Yosaku asked. "That'd be nice. I'm fresh out of cash after Nami swindled me in poker the other day." Nami promptly ignored that. As they approached the odd gate, they saw it was indeed some sort of entry. Luffy watched as an old woman appeared from a doorway on the side of the gate, looking at them. She had a small device in her hands, but Luffy couldn't identify it at this distance. "Entry for how many?" she asked. Luffy turned and did a head count. 30, he started, but Nami covered his mouth. 12, she said innocently. When she glared at him, Luffy realized he'd counted Wiper among them. That was an accident. He wasn't one of them, so he could pay his own entry fee. "That'll be 1 billion XTOL for each of you," she said. "Payment plans are available." Luffy started, "We don't have that." "Go ahead then," the old woman said, turning to leave. Luffy spared a look at his accountant, but Nami shrugged. "If she's letting us go, we go," she hissed. "It's not illegal if we got permission." Of course, silly of him to think otherwise. The crew got Mary through the gate and into a small entryway. Before anyone could speak, Mary lurched as she was grabbed by a sea creature digging its claws into her. "We're being attacked," Chopper shouted. "Not again with the seafood," Zoro muttered, grabbing his blades. "That'd be the speedy shrimp." Luffy looked over to see the same woman from before watching them. "He takes visitors to the Sky Islands. Just let him take you up." As if on command, the shrimp in question burst forward, swimming rapidly towards a winding pathway of milky white clouds. "This place is so cool," he shouted in excitement. "Sky Island, here we come." Amazon watched the trespassers go with no expression on her face. She didn't care one way or the other. She just did her job. She raised her radio dial to her mouth and sent her message along. "This is Amazon at Heaven's Gate. 12 illegal immigrants are on their way to Angel Beach. Mighty God above and his loyal priests. I have given them the sky's judgment. May their fall from this place be swift and imminent." It didn't take long before the speedy shrimp flew into the air off the Milky Road, flying into the white sea. As Mary touched down in the waves, the shrimp disappeared into the depths, probably on its way to go and ferry someone else here. "Whoa, look at that!" Luffy shouted in awe as he leaned over the railing. Now at 10,000 feet, he truly felt they had entered Skypia. That was what the sign had called it, anyway. Maybe the locals called it something else. "It really does exist," Nami said in awe beside him. "A civilization in the sky." Luffy laughed at her awestruck expression as Mary drifted through the clouds. "And you doubted me," he said. Nami gave him an unimpressed stare. "Doubting you is a healthy reflex," she replied. "When I feel I should hone for future islands." Luffy just laughed as Mary got closer to the nearest shore, a beachfront near what looked like a town up the mountain. "Alright everyone, we're here," he shouted. "Last one on the beach cleans the deck." Luffy did not wait for a proper race to start before leaping from the ship, landing in the snow-white sand as the other man groaned. "That was cheap, big bro Luffy," Johnny shouted as he brandished a finger at him. "You had a head start." "Sorry, can't hear you over the sand," Luffy replied. Turning back to the beach, Luffy quickly saw a tree nearby, with an odd fruit hanging out of it. "Hey, Luffy," Nejico called. Luffy looked over as the others disembarked, some wearing swimming attire. "Vivi and I are gonna stay on the ship and watch Wiper. We'll shout if anything happens. We'll negotiate if we can." "Alright," he replied as he stretched his arm to grab the odd, cylindrical fruit. "Don't do or say anything to set him off." "We won't," Vivi called. "You can count on us, Luffy." He just laughed at the princess as he caught the fruit from the tree. "I never didn't count on you," he replied, bringing the fruit up to his mouth to take a bite. It clanged like metal and made his teeth vibrate, causing him to drop it in surprise. "What the hell is that thing? Could you not just go around eating random things?" Usopp asked. "What if it's poisonous?" "Well, I'll find out when I open it. That's not what I meant." Wiper didn't know where he was, but he knew he'd been captured. As he slowly came to, he could feel that his entire body was restricted. Try as he might, there was no way to discreetly free himself. He could hear a few people walking near him, but so far no one had said anything he could use to his advantage. How had those blue sea morons captured him? All he remembered was getting splattered by blue paint, and then passing out in a haze. He needed to find his gear, and quickly. Sensing a lull in the sounds nearby, Wiper opened his eyes to look around. He saw no one ahead of him, nor his gear. He had been tied to the mast of their ship and left there. Taking a glance at his surroundings, he noticed that he'd been taken to the White Sea. So they had gone up to Skypia proper, then. He could see town in the distance, but other than that there was no identifying signs to let him know where they'd ended up. This was bad. He was captured by the enemy, lost somewhere he could not recognize right away, and who knew what they were going to do to him. "Ah, you're awake. Good." Wiper jumped and looked up. He had been so wrapped up in his thoughts that he hadn't noticed a woman coming from behind to stand in front of him. The woman in question had her light blue hair combed to the left side of her head, a red bow tied around her head to keep it out of her eyes. She had a swirling tattoo on her arm similar to his, but he could not assign a meaning to it if there was one. Her light blue eyes had zeroed in on him, and he sensed a confidence and leadership quality to them. Yes, the way this woman carried herself led him to believe she was someone of authority. She had ditched any shirt she had been wearing before for a blue and black bikini top, but she still had a pair of shorts held up by a belt that sported weapons. That was a holstered threat if he'd ever seen one. "What do you want from me?" Wiper asked, meeting her eye. The woman shrugged. "Don't know yet," she answered. "Hey, Vivi, he's awake." Seems she was calling one of her allies. Wiper frowned down at the deck, trying to figure out what he was going to do. If he could find a weakness in these knots, he didn't doubt he could defeat whoever Vivi and this person were. But where was the rest of the crew he'd seen before? Where was that paint witch who had stopped him with colors? He didn't see them anywhere. Another person emerged from the cabin of the ship, another woman with blue hair. Hers, though, was bright blue and in a ponytail, a stark contrast to her friend's. As opposed to her friend who was scantily clad, this girl had a long-sleeve white sweater on, and black woolen pants. She hugged herself as she descended the steps towards him, and Wiper noted she must have been cold. This girl had a sense of elegance to her. He felt as though he should have bowed to her, the way she looked at him. "Hi," she greeted as she came to stand in front of him. "I'm Vivi." "What do you want?" he asked again. Vivi smiled softly at him and knelt down to be on eye level with him. "Nothing, for now," she said. "Just want to ask you some questions, if that's okay." "I've got no answers for you, tourist." He spat the last word at her, but Vivi looked unaffected by his venom. "How about we start with your name?" she asked. "I got it from you while you were inebriated. But can you remind me? Why was she being so soft and cordial with him? It was unnerving." "Wiper," he said simply. Vivi's smile widened. "Wiper," she repeated, "it's nice to meet you, was it?" "Well, I guess you tried to kill us," but it's not the first time I made a friend after that's happened. What kind of stuff did this girl regularly get into? Wiper's eyes darted to the other woman, who was leaning on the railing of the ship with a hand on her holstered weapon. Vivi looked towards the girl as well, seeing what he saw. "Don't mind Nijiko," she said. "She's just here to make sure you don't break free and kill me." So the other woman was Nijiko. Wiper didn't know what kind of weapon that was, but he sensed that if she had to draw it he was in trouble. "I'll ask again," he said. "What do you want from me?" "Well, Wiper," Vivi said, sitting and crossing her legs in front of him. "I'm sure you can tell we're new to Skypia, as it seems to be called. My first question would be, why do you want to kill us? We just met." "Last thing we need here is more invaders," Wiper snarled. "Besides, you're usually good target practice." "What do you mean by more invaders?" Vivi asked with a raised eyebrow. "You've had others." "Not anything you need to concern yourself with, tourist," Wiper replied. He had no intention of filling this woman in on Skypia's politics. He just wanted to get out of here. But with Nijiko watching him like a hawk, he doubted that would happen. "Well, perhaps if you tell me what's going on, we can come to an arrangement," Vivi replied. "After all, we don't have any ill will towards you. If you promised you wouldn't attack us again, I'm sure my captain would happily set you free." "Your captain?" Wiper asked. "So you aren't in charge?" "I don't answer to you, or any of you. But certainly not someone who isn't the leader of this tiny vessel." Vivi, still, looked unaffected by his remarks. "I speak for the captain of this vessel," she said simply. "I am the voice of the Straw Hats. He's entrusted your situation to me, and I intend to solve it. Will you allow me to solve this peacefully, or shall we keep you tied up there?" Wiper noted the hard will her voice carried. She was still being soft with him, but now she was warning him what would happen if he failed to comply. If what she said was true, and she spoke for the captain, then he had little choice but to parley with her. "Fine, ask your question, voice," he replied. "I will answer when I deem it appropriate." That sound said with a bright smile. "First things first, do you attack all tourists?" "When we can," Wiper replied. "Like I said, you make good target practice, and we don't need any more of you." "You say, we," Vivi noted, raising her hand. "What do you mean? Are you a native of this land?" How best to answer that, he wondered. "That's a loaded question," he replied. "Most I will say is yes and no." Vivi raised an eyebrow, but did not pursue an answer. "What are these invaders you spoke of?" she asked. "Has this land been invaded recently?" "I don't intend to drop all my problems on a bunch of blue sea folk," Wiper replied. "It's got nothing to do with you, so leave." Vivi examined him for a moment silently, Wiper matching her gaze. "Want to know what I think, Wiper?" she asked. "Who cares?" he demanded. "I think you're a strong, patriotic man," she said. "A man who has been driven to these ends because of what has happened to your home. You speak of stopping more invaders, but refuse to say what you mean. I ask, you won't tell me. Why? To not involve an innocent? You're compassionate as well, then." "I tried to kill you," Wiper spat. "Only because what has happened to you makes you view all outsiders as the enemy," she replied. "You viewed those pirates before us as enemies, and my crew and I as enemies because of what's happened to you. Why are you analyzing me?" he demanded, struggling against his binds. "Just kill or free me. I had to go." "May I tell you a story, Wiper?" Vivi asked calmly, ignoring his request. "I too had my home invaded before. And my home was infiltrated and my security threatened," Vivi continued. Wiper had to admit, she was good at ignoring his jabs. "So I tried my hardest to solve it all on my own. I did what I thought was necessary. I hurt people, lied to people, all to try and save my home that I loved. But I couldn't do it alone, or I'd have died. Want to know what saved me?" "No, this ship and its crew," she said with a soft smile. "This little ship of light barged into my life and saved me, my home, and everything I love." "So why are you even here?" Wiper asked her. "Why do you not celebrate in your saved homeland?" "Because I came to the realization that my home was not the only home that's been destroyed and invaded," she replied. Wiper was startled by the sudden conviction in her voice. "I refuse to sit idly by while people's lives and homes are destroyed by those who carry ill will in their hearts. I intend to use the freedom this ship provides me to save those that the higher-ups either ignore, oppress, or forget. I tell you this, Wiper, not so you will empathize with me. I tell you because I think we could help you. Now, I will ask again. Has your home been invaded? Is your family at great risk? Do you need allies in this war you wage? Wiper stared at Vivi long and hard, trying to read her. The courage and determination she displayed was truthfully awe-inspiring. He could tell this woman was not exactly well-built or powerful, but her words carried so much weight she could topple nations with them. This girl was dangerous, he realized. Her words were as sharp as a sword and her calm expression and friendly disposition her shield. In only this short conversation, she had swayed him into talking. He could feel his determination to remain silent waning. She had disarmed him by talking friendly and peacefully, only to drive her bladed words into his abdomen once his guard was down. Vivi, he decided, was dangerous in a way he wasn't familiar with. There's no point in telling you, he said, it will just get you killed. Flee this place before God strikes you down. God? Vivi asked, is there a God here? Do you have a death wish? Wiper demanded. He's probably listening to us right now. This caused both women to scan their surroundings warily. You have no need to be here. Leave, before you die. It's that simple. And what will happen if we do leave? Vivi asked. Will you continue to fight this god all by yourself? With your limited allies? Did she have to say it like that? Deep down, he already knew the chances of victory were slim. If Gonfall could lose to Enel, what hope did he have? Can I have my say? Nijiko asked, making both Wiper and Vivi turn to her. Wiper, the man in charge of this crew, had aspirations far beyond this place. I'm not religious, so I don't really believe this God you speak of is a real one. My home too was freed by this ship, and I have seen firsthand what a tyrannical leader does to those he lords over. I've also seen, time and again, what our captain does to those leaders. Tell us what's happening. Who knows, maybe the solution to your problem just fell into your lap. She gave him a cautionary smile, and when he looked back at Vivi, she too was smiling. Please, she asked, tilting her head to one side. Will you let us hear your story, Wiper? Wiper stared at her quietly, trying to figure out how insane these people truly were. Finally, his shoulders slouched and he hung his head. These people had to be suicidal to ignore his warnings. If it means you'll free me, fetch your captain, he said. I'll share with you the story of this place. Wiper was left tied up as Vivi and Nijiko fetched the rest of their crew, and soon Wiper found himself surrounded by the 12 of them. Some of the men looked like they could be trouble if they got used to the lack of oxygen up in Skypia. The women, although obviously less psychically imposing, still unnerved him. Vivi's words still made him feel like she was defeating him verbally, while Nijiko's careful eye made him feel exposed. Nami, as he learned her name was, also had an imposing glare on her. The eldest woman, Robin, looked innocent enough, but he knew that look harbored trouble. The paint witch, Marianne, scared him most of all. He did not want to get hit by it again. What was that strange little horned creature though? A blue sea pet? So, you ready to talk then? Luffy, the captain, asked him. Wiper met his strangely empty gaze. Luffy's eyes were somewhat vacant, but he sensed purpose behind them, an odd combination. Yes, your negotiator has warned me done, he replied. He saw Nami wrap an arm supportively around Vivi, who blushed. Keep an eye on her, her voice could move mountains. Oh stop, you're embarrassing me, Vivi said with a giggle. This made him apprehensive. He could tell it was another of her techniques. It made her look friendly and approachable. So, what's the deal, big? Luffy asked. What's got you attacking random people as a hobby? Wiper spent a brief moment catching the crew up on what he had already explained to Vivi and Nijiko. He explained that this place was not friendly to outsiders anymore, and that God could strike them down at any moment if he truly wanted to. This made a few of them look afraid, but they said nothing. Wiper opened his mouth to speak more, but found the words caught in his throat. He didn't know what to say. Just start at the beginning, he heard Vivi say quietly. He looked up and saw she'd pushed to the front of the group and knelt down again, smiling at him. He was right in saying she was dangerous. Things were fine here several years ago, he said. Well, not fine, but better than they are. That's when God appeared. His real name is Enel, but he may as well be a real god. His power is so overwhelming and insane that he toppled the past leadership of Skypia and became our new lord. Ever since, this land has become even more dangerous and hard to live in. Enel is insane, and must be stopped. What makes him so powerful? Zoro, the swordsman, asked. Enel can turn into pure lightning, Wiper replied. It is not possible to strike him with psychical attacks. It can't be done. He takes no damage. Only the strongest and most absurd powers could ever hope to damage him. An entire army could attack him, and they would lose. He cannot be beaten. Logia fruit user, then, Robin surmised. Wiper didn't know what Logia was, but the rest of the crew seemed to understand her. Another Logia user Pressy with a frown, that's an uncomfortably quick repetition. What else can this Enel do? Vivi asked him. Wiper frowned. He also uses a mysterious power called mantra, he said. With it and his electric powers, he can see the entirety of Skypia and hear what people say. He can probably hear us right now, discussing him. This made the crew look uneasy, some looking around. He can use this power to read attack patterns and intentions, making it even more impossible to land a hit on him. He truly is, in every sense, a god. Even if he is just a man. Yes, that was the power Enel had. There was no way to defeat him. He would probably rule over this land for the rest of his life. You said he turns into lightning? Wiper looked up to see the small horned creature had come to the front of the group to look at him. I did, Wiper said. Why? A smile spread on the animal's face as he turned to the captain. Then we have nothing to worry about, he exclaimed. Luffy can't get hurt by him. Wiper didn't know what that meant, but Nami seemed to be the first to understand, her eyes lightening up. Of course, she said, good catch, Chopper, I almost missed that. It's your turn to explain, Wiper said. How is your captain immune? Nejiko answered him by walking to Luffy's side and grabbing his cheek. Wiper watched in astonishment as Nejiko stretched her arm out to its full length, horizontal to the ground, holding Luffy's cheek the whole way. The man's cheek simply stretched with her arm, Luffy barely even seeming to notice. Luffy ate the gum fruit, she told him. His body is made of rubber. Do you have rubber up here? If you don't, here's a little tip. It doesn't conduct electricity. Wiper stared at the man's stretched cheek as Nejiko released him, the skin snapping back to his face and making his head wobble. You ate a fruit like Enel, he said, eyes narrowing. How can I trust you? You may as well be the next tyrant. That sounds like too much work, Luffy replied, waving his hand in denial. I've got no interest in taking other people's freedom away. No? Wiper asked. Why is that? Luffy just stared at him blankly. Because I'm aiming to be the freest man in the blue sea, he replied, as if the answer was obvious. Nothing about taking this place for my own gets me closer to that. Wiper stared at the man's blank eyes, unsure of what to think. Of course he could be lying, but, as he stared at him, Wiper came to feel this was not the case. Luffy did not have the look of a liar. He was far too innocent looking for that. Let's assume that's true, Wiper grumbled, shifting under the ropes. You still can't hit him because of his mantra. You'll just tire out and die eventually. Then I'll just kick his ass faster than I can tire out, Luffy said as if it was that simple. It's not that easy, Wiper stated. Sure it is, just point me in the right direction. Growling, Wiper tried to free himself from the ropes. He was getting so tired of this. Just let me go, he shouted. I don't have time to parley with you idiots. Every second I waste is one I could be using to reclaim what's ours. So something was stolen from you, Robin said, speaking up for the first time. Wiper looked into her blue eyes, watching her calculate her words. He sighed and slumped again. Not something, somewhere, he said, our ancestral home. My people and I used to live on the blue sea, like you. But hundreds of years ago, the sea exploded beneath our home and sent the land flying into the sky. We've lived here ever since, constantly fighting to protect what is ours from these thieving Skypians. They see the dirt, the trees, and the environment of the blue sea and try to take it. We've been fighting for centuries over it. Then Enel took it for himself. Now, please, release me. How many hundreds? Robin asked. Wiper raised an eyebrow at her. 4, I think, he said. Robin's eyes widened as she took a step forward and knelt down to look at him. Do you know the name Mont Blanc Noland? She asked. Wiper's eyes widened at the legendary explorer's name. Of course I know him, he exclaimed. A legendary explorer who saved my people from a plague with his cures and medicines. He was a friend of my ancestor, Calgera. Robin studied him carefully, her eyes full of questions. So the city of gold Noland wrote about, she said, it exists? Yes, of course, in the forests of Shandora. Noland saw it with his own eyes, this I know. So Cricket was right, then? Usopp, the long-nosed one, asked. The city did exist? Seems it did, Nami said. Only it didn't sink, the knock-up stream sent it flying into the sky. We'll have to tell him about this. Who is this Cricket you speak of? Wiper asked. Another friend of yours. Luffy smiled down at him. He's actually descended from Noland, he said. Wiper's eyes widened. He helped us get up here, actually. He's down below on Jaya, searching for the city of gold Noland spoke of. Noland's family? Wiper asked in disbelief. His bloodline still runs strong to this day? Yep. Luffy said, he's a cool guy, once you get past his crotchety attitude. Wiper could hardly believe it. After all this time, all this hardship, he learns of Cricket's descendant looking for them. After everything, his family still remembered their bonds to his? What happened to Noland? Wiper asked, looking back at Robin. Was he a legendary hero, like Calgara was? Robin frowned. He died disgraced and an outcast, she said, because when he brought people back to see the city of gold, Shandora had already been blasted into the sky. People assumed him a liar and a charlatan, and had him executed. Wiper stared at her in disbelief. All this time, he and his people believed Noland probably forgot about them. But to hear he had not, and tried to return, that was a hard pill to swallow. But to hear the man he had spent his childhood wondering about had been executed left a foul taste in his mouth. The stories say my ancestor Calgara fought until his dying breath to protect Shandora, he said quietly, so that one day, he could ring the golden bell and tell Noland we were still alive, still here. Silence fell over everyone after he spoke, giving Wiper time to gather his thoughts. Assuming these people were not lying to him, this changed things. They were allies of the Mont Blanc family, that meant they were allies with the Shandia. Assuming it was true, naturally, he looked up towards Vivi, who met his gaze. Do I have your word, voice, he said, that none of what your crew has told me is lies? That all of that was the truth? If any of it turns out to be a lie, you may take my life, Vivi replied stoically. The others looked at her in shock, but the woman did not back down from him. Wiper kept her gaze a little longer before he sighed. Then you all and I are not enemies, he said. Could you please undo these bindings, now? The crew looked apprehensive, but after a look from Luffy, Usopp walked forward and worked at untying the knots. The pressure of the ropes lessened around his body, allowing him to breathe more easily. Soon, the ropes fell to the deck, freeing him. Wiper stood to his full height, towering over many of the crew members. Thank you, he muttered to Usopp, who fled back into the crowd. That must mean you don't want to kill us now, huh? Luffy asked with his arms crossed. Wiper shook his head. No, he said. You ferried priceless information to me about Noland and his family. In return, allow me to grant you my own priceless knowledge. Flee this place and do not return. Enel is not a man to be trifled with. Yet you trifle with him, Sanji noted, smoking a cigarette. Because he has taken my ancestral homeland, Wiper replied. But you blue sea folk, you have no dog in this fight. Leave, before Enel tries to kill you all. Luffy made a face at this. No can do, Wiper, he said. Why not? He demanded, Luffy blinking at him blankly. If that city of gold exists, he replied, I want to tell Cricket. I want to ring that bell and show him. Wiper stared at L.A. Screw Loose. He cast a glance over the rest of the crew, but none looked too surprised by this. Some even seemed to agree. Were these people just not listening to him, or what? Luffy, Nami started, leaning on Luffy's shoulder to stare at him in annoyance. Finally, someone with some sense. We're 10,000 feet in the air. Do you really think Cricket will hear the bell? Good point, Luffy said to her before looking back at Wiper. How loud is the bell, do you think? I don't know, Wiper admitted. Loud? Sounds good enough to me, Luffy replied. Alright gang, get ready to set out. We're headed to… Luffy turned back to him. Where is it? A place called Upper Yard, he admitted. But listen, this is a bad idea. We can't just walk up and… Upper Yard, Luffy repeated. Pack what you need and we'll set out. The crew gave a collection noise as a response, before setting out to gather whatever they needed. Wiper was left dumbfounded by all of them. Were Blue Sea people sick in the head or something? You get used to it, Vivi said, still standing with him. He turned to look at her, still stunned. What? He asked, the lack of self-preservation. Well, yes, Vivi admitted with a laugh. She turned to watch the crew work, her hands behind her back. But I meant the selfless and irrational desire to help other people, even when their lives are at risk. Wiper was reminded of the story she told, that this crew had saved her as well. Maybe he could risk putting his faith in them, at least for now. It was brave of you to offer your life as penance if your crew lied to me, he said. You're a brave woman. Vivi just looked at him with a smirk. I don't think it was brave, she said, because we didn't lie to you once, so my life isn't in any danger. Preparing to leave didn't get very far before Wiper was cornered again and given his things. That wasn't a problem, but what was a problem was that he was being asked to explain his things to them. What, you've never seen dials before? He asked Usopp, showing him the shell. Usopp shook his head. We don't have those down in the Blue Sea, he replied. What's it do? Well, there's a few types of dial, Wiper said, but this one is an impact dial. What's it do? Here, punch it. Usopp raised an eyebrow, but raised his fist and slammed it into the dial. Wiper could tell it had not been a hard punch, which was good. He leaned forward and pressed the dial to Usopp's shoulder and clicked it. The small amount of force generated pushed him back a bit, making his eyes widen. What was that? He asked. Impact dials absorb kinetic force, Wiper explained as the crew gathered around him. So I had you punch it, absorb the force, and threw it back at you. It works much better if your opponent is very strong, obviously. What about these? Nami asked, lifting up his shooter skates. Shooters, he explained as he grabbed them from her. It uses breath dials to shoot you forward. It's how I skated to you earlier to attack. You can walk on the clouds with these. What about this? Johnny asked, holding his launcher in his hands. My launcher, he replied as he took it from the man and shifted it to show the back. See here, I can interchange dials and change how it works. It can breath fire, shoot cannonballs faster, the works. Whoa, you got some cool stuff, Wiper, Yosaku said, eyes wide as he watched the shooters. Usopp sure could use some of this stuff. Could you? Wiper asked, turning back to the other man. Usopp sheepishly rubbed the back of his head. I'm something of a weaponsmith, Usopp replied. I've upgraded a lot of the crew's weapons on our trip so far. Interesting, Wiper replied. If you're good, I can show you more dials when we get back to my village. It will help if you really plan to battle Enel. Village? Robin asked. How strong are your numbers? Wiper grimaced at this. Not high, he replied. Our fighting force is less than a dozen strong. But we'll still take back Upper Yard, even if it kills us. Less than 12 people and he's against getting help, Luffy teased, punching Wiper's shoulder several times to joke with him. You definitely needed the help, huh? Wiper just stared back at him in annoyance. Vivi cleared her throat to ease the tension. How about you show us to your village, Wiper? She asked. We can plan our next move there. Wiper sighed and nodded. Sounds fine to me, he said. Let's go, I'll lead us to Blue Sea illegals. A voice boomed, making them all jump and turn. Down on the beach was a platoon of white berets. You're trespassing in Skypia and that is a Class 11 offense. The leader of this vessel, make yourself known. Hi. Luffy waved down to them. What seems to be the problem, officer? The problem is you entered Skypia without paying your immigration fees, the leader of the berets said. Making you illegals, come down here and pay your fine, and all will be forgiven. What's the fine? Luffy asked. Seeing as there is 12 of you, the fine would amount to 112 billion XDOL. What's the exchange rate with berries? Nami called. In berries, it would be 12 million. Wiper noted that Johnny and Yosaku both grabbed one of Nami's arms to prevent her from flying off the ship and assaulting the officers. Please hand over the money, or else we will have to arrest you and take you in. I have a better idea, Luffy called. Without waiting for a response, he leapt from the railing down towards the officers. Zoro and Sanji close behind. Wiper watched as the men fought, fascinated by their styles. Zoro's sword work was fascinating to watch. He dodged and moved around to slice the officers' arrows in two like it was no big deal. Sanji dodged with even fancier footwork, quickly closing the distance and kicking the officers in the head. Luffy had taken the commander of the unit, grabbing a nearby tree with his stretched arm and flying right at the man. Wiper watched in shock as Luffy grabbed a hold of the man and used his stretched arm to wrap them both around the tree like a rope, gaining speed as they went. After about 10 rotations, Luffy let go of the captain of the squad, and he was sent flying dozens of feet into the air before sailing back down, landing hard on his face and not moving. "Good job, guys," Nami called. "Take their wallets while you're at it." Wiper felt no sympathy for Skypian guards, but he had to admit he did feel a little bad watching the men rummage through the officers' pockets looking for money. "You're impressive for Blue Sea travelers," Wiper called. "You've adapted well to the lack of oxygen." "Yeah, it's no big deal," Zoro replied. "These guys weren't tough, anyway. I don't need a full breath to beat them." "Well, you'll definitely need a full breath to defeat Enel and his priests," he replied. "Let's go to my village. I'll show you the way." "Oh, can you show us the city of gold too?" Nami asked, sliding up to him. "Keep an eye on her, Wiper, or she'll swipe your ancestral homeland," Zoro said. "I would not," Nami said, but Wiper got the feeling she was lying. "I have no attachment to the gold of the city," Wiper replied. "You can take as much as you can carry, I suppose." B could practically see the extol symbols light up in Nami's eyes. "Let's go blast God off his mountain," she shouted. "I need my gold. Oh, and to get your people your home back, Wiper. That too." "Okay."